Hey guys, tonight we're heading somewhere a little different. Not castles, not plagues, but a glittering world that was somehow just as filthy. The 1980s in Hollywood. A time of flashing neon lights, synthesizer soundtracks, shoulder pads wider than most doorways, and of course mountains of cocaine. Forget the polished interviews and red carpet smiles. Behind the cameras, the truth is a frantic, sweaty nightmare. You probably wouldn't survive a single week living like a so-called star in that era, even if the posters and magazines made it look like paradise. So before we dive in, take a second to get comfortable, dim the lights, maybe put on a fan for that low hum in the background. If you're listening in bed, settle in and let your shoulders drop. This is the kind of story that sounds glamorous at first, but the closer you get, the more it reeks of powder, paranoia, and way too much hairspray. Congratulations. You've just woken up in Los Angeles 1984. The good news, you're famous. The bad news, fame here is a poison dressed up as champagne. Your house is a sprawling mansion in the Hollywood Hills with floor-to-ceiling glass windows that were supposed to scream success, but they mostly just make you a target for paparazzi lenses. Your white leather couch has cigarette burns in it. There's a crystal ashtray overflowing on the marble coffee table, and tucked in the corner, there's a glass-topped mirror that isn't for decoration. It's for the lines of powder already waiting like a grim breakfast buffet. The smell in the room is a confusing cocktail of stale perfume, spilled vodka, and the faint metallic tang of blood from last night's nosebleed. There's no fresh coffee brewing, just a half-empty bottle of Dom Perignon sitting in a bucket of melted ice and a rolled-up bill crumpled nearby. Your ears are still ringing from the bass at the club you stumbled out of a few hours ago, and your stomach is growling, though not for food. Nobody eats breakfast anymore. Not when there's a faster, shinier way to feel awake. Your body feels like it was hit by a limo, which, honestly, is a real possibility given the way people drive down Sunset Boulevard at 4 a.m. Your nose is clogged and raw. Your mouth tastes like battery acid and menthol cigarettes. Your skin is oily, but your lips are cracked. You're barely 30, but the bathroom mirror swears you're pushing 50. This is morning in Hollywood in the mid-80s, where nobody really sleeps, and everyone's heart is a ticking time bomb wrapped in designer clothes. And this is just how your day starts. You wake up face down on something that is technically a bed, though the definition is stretched thinner than the lines you left on the glass table a few hours ago. It's a California king mattress, the kind people brag about in glossy magazines, but yours is covered in silk sheets stained with blotches of makeup, spilled champagne, and a constellation of cigarette ash burns that crunch when you move. There's no comfort here, just a reminder that expensive fabric is still just fabric when it hasn't been washed in 3 weeks. The pillow smells faintly of hairspray, perfume, and the kind of sweat that doesn't come from a morning jog, but from 3 hours under strobe lights at the Viper Room before you passed out somewhere around sunrise. Your head pounds like it's been personally targeted by a drum machine. And when you roll over, the blinds are wide open, letting in that brutal Los Angeles sun. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows is the hazy smog of the Hollywood Hills, a view people fantasize about when they move here with dreams of stardom. The palm trees sway lazily, mocking you with their effortless elegance, while your own body feels like it's collapsing in on itself. You can see the rooftops of other mansions scattered down the hillside, and if you squint, You might even catch a glimpse of the freeways below, rivers of honking cars where regular people are already on their way to work. You haven't had a 9 to 5 in years. Your schedule is dictated by call times, club invites, and whatever dealer happens to have the purest bag this week. Your eyes are bloodshot, your lips cracked, and your skin shines under a greasy sheen that makes you look like a wax figure melting under hot lights. When you finally manage to sit up, the room spins. On the nightstand, there's a glass of water that looks inviting, until you notice the faint film of cigarette ash floating on the surface. Next to it, an overflowing ashtray with lipstick-stained butts, a tube of mascara without its cap, and a bottle of Valium lying on its side like a casualty of war. A closer look at the carpet reveals more evidence of last night. Powdery streaks that never quite made it up your nose, a couple of crushed Marlboros, and what could be a slice of pizza, or could be something far less identifiable. Either way, it's fused into the shag pile now. Another permanent reminder that this place is less a home and more a holding cell with better furniture. The mansion itself is everything you thought you wanted. Massive arched doorways, Italian marble floors, white leather couches that look like they were designed to impress studio executives rather than ever be comfortable. The kitchen has a chrome fridge the size of a walk-in closet, though it's stocked with nothing but half-empty bottles of champagne, a few cans of tab, and a bag of limes hard enough to use as weapons. Nobody cooks here. The oven has never been turned on. Meals are take-out cartons scattered across the counters, cold Chinese noodles stiff with grease, and a forgotten cheeseburger from In-N-Out grow in a colony of mould so vibrant it could qualify as set decoration for a horror movie. The air reeks of last night's cigarette smoke. It's thick, clinging to the velvet drapes and your own hair, which feels crusted with products and sweat. Somewhere in the house, the stereo is still on, playing the same looped cassette of Duran Duran that someone put on hours ago before forgetting about it. The sound is warped, the tape stretched, Simon Le Bon's voice slurring in slow motion as it echoes down the hallway. You think about shutting it off, but the idea of standing up makes your knees ache preemptively. There's a coffee table in the living room that isn't really a coffee table anymore. It's an altar, and the offering is cocaine. A few razor blades are scattered across the glass surface, a credit card bent and frayed at the edges, and several rolled up bills that carry the faint smell of blood, mucus, and regret. The lines are sloppy, uneven, as if whoever cut them couldn't see straight anymore. Which makes sense. Last night wasn't about precision. It was about survival. About forcing your body to keep going long after it begged you to stop. The table itself has scratches etched into the glass from years of abuse, permanent scars from nights that blur together. You stumble toward the bathroom, hoping to rinse the sour taste of stale alcohol out of your mouth. But the sink greets you with another horror show. There are clumps of makeup wipes blackened with eyeliner, a toothbrush that looks like it's been chewed on by a raccoon, and streaks of dried red lipstick smeared across the porcelain. The mirror is cracked at the corner, a reminder of some night when someone slammed a hairdryer into it during an argument that wasn't really about anything. When you look at your reflection, it feels like looking at a stranger. Your eyes are sunken, your face puffy, and your teeth stained from too many cigarettes and not enough dental care. You look like the ghost of someone who used to be famous. In the hallway, the smell shifts from stale smoke to something sharper. perfume mixed with sweat and a faint iron tang. A girl from last night is still here, passed out on the white leather sofa, with one leg dangling off the edge. Her makeup is smeared across her cheek, her mascara stained into the cushion. She clutches a half-empty glass of vodka like it's a security blanket, her other hand draped lazily across the carpet. You don't remember her name, but she probably doesn't remember yours either. That's not what last night was about. The bedroom doors down the hall are closed, but you can hear soft snoring from at least one of them. There are always strays left behind after a party. They'll disappear by noon, taking your lighter, maybe your sunglasses, sometimes your wallet. You don't bother locking the doors. Half of Hollywood has been through this house anyway. The pool outside glistens under the morning sun, but the water is cloudy, littered with cigarette butts, beer cans, and a lone high heel floating near the deep end. The deck is sticky with spilled alcohol, plastic cups overturned, and a scattering of neon straws glowing faintly in the daylight. Last night it looked glamorous. Now it looks like the aftermath of a crime scene. And in a way it is. Every party here is a slow-motion massacre, a parade of bodies sacrificing themselves on the altar of excess. Your phone rings. It's not a sleek smartphone. It's a beige landline with a cord that tangles no matter what you do. The shrill tone cuts through your headache like a knife. It could be your agent demanding you sober up enough for a meeting. It could be a producer reminding you about a shoot you've already forgotten. It could be your dealer cheerfully checking if you want another ounce delivered before lunch. You let it ring. You're not ready to deal with reality, not yet. The mansion feels huge, but it's suffocating. Every room is a monument to your success, but also a tomb filled with evidence of your decline. The awards on the shelf, the framed magazine covers, the posters of movies you once starred in, all of them stare back at you with cruel nostalgia. You are a rising star. Now you're just trying to stay lit, even if it means burning yourself out in the process. The irony is that everyone on the outside still wants this life. They see the money, the clothes, the cars, the endless parties. They don't see the mornings like this, where every breath feels like punishment, and every reflection is a reminder that you're not built to survive this. So you stagger back towards the glass table, ignoring the ache in your chest and the dryness in your throat. The lines are still there, waiting. You tell yourself it'll clear the fog, give you energy, help you face the calls and the meetings and the cameras. But deep down, you know it's just another chain tightening around your neck. Still, you lean down anyway, because that's what mornings are now. Not coffee, not eggs, not orange juice. Just a ritual of powder and denial. And as the burn hits your nose and the drip crawls down your throat, the mansion around you comes alive again. The music, the sunlight, the lingering smell of perfume and smoke. It all blends into a haze. You don't feel rested. You don't feel alive. But you feel something. And for now, that's enough. Your stomach growls, but not in the way that suggests food will fix it. It's more of a hollow ache, a warning that your body hasn't seen a proper meal in days. In a normal life, this would be the moment where you stumble into the kitchen, crack a couple of eggs, maybe brew some coffee, sit down with a slice of toast. But this isn't normal life, and breakfast in your world hasn't involved actual food in years. What sits on your glass table is your true morning spread, and it's not bacon and eggs. It's a bottle of champagne sweating in a bucket of melted ice, a pharmacy's worth of little orange bottles with faded labels, and a neat row of powder already waiting like an unholy buffet. This is how the day begins when you're a star in 1980s Hollywood. You reach for the champagne first. The cork popped hours ago, but it doesn't matter. The bubbles are flat, the liquid lukewarm, and it tastes faintly of ash from the cigarette that fell into the glass sometime before dawn. Still, it burns down your throat, and that's enough. Alcohol isn't about flavour here. It's about numbing the edges just enough to stop your brain from screaming. Next to the bottle is a pack of pills, scattered across the glass like spilled candy. Valium, Quaaludes, a couple of mystery capsules someone handed you at a party with a wink and a promise. The labels don't matter. The effect does. One to take the edge off, another to keep you awake, something else to help your heart stop racing after the lines of powder. It's a chemistry experiment where you are both the scientist and the unwilling subject. On the table, the cocaine is already chopped into tidy rails, uneven in width but consistent in purpose. The razor blade glints in the sunlight, filtering through the blinds. The mirror is dusted with residue, proof of last night's marathon and the early hours of this morning. You bend down again, even though your sinuses feel raw, even though your throat is sore, even though you promised yourself 3 hours ago that the last bump would actually be the last. It doesn't matter. The powder calls and you answer, because nothing else makes you feel like you can function. The burn is sharp, the drip bitter, and within seconds your brain lights up just enough to convince you this is a good idea. The hunger in your stomach doesn't disappear, but it shifts. You don't want food anymore. You want movement, stimulation, anything that isn't sitting quietly and realizing your body is falling apart. Real breakfast is for people with day jobs and alarm clocks, people who wake up and brush their teeth and pour cereal into bowls. Your version is different. Breakfast here is liquid courage and chemical armour. It's the only way to push back against the exhaustion that creeps in after nights that never really ended. The fridge in the kitchen mocks you with its emptiness. A few cans of Tab sit on the middle shelf, fizzing softly when you shake them. There's an old carton of milk that smells like paint thinner, a box of baking soda that expired years ago, and a half-sliced lemon hardened into a fossil. You close the door quickly, because the smell clings to the air and turns your stomach. Food isn't part of the plan. Eating would mean sitting still, and sitting still would mean thinking. Thinking would mean facing the hangover, the emptiness, the gnawing guilt. So you drink, and you snort, and you swallow until breakfast isn't something you eat but something you survive. You remember the first time someone offered you cocaine as a morning pick-me-up. It was on a film set, sometime around 81, when your career was just starting to take off. You were exhausted, nerves fried, terrified you'd forget your lines under the hot lights. A fellow actor leaned over, handed you a key with a tiny white dusting on the edge, and told you it would help. He wasn't wrong. You felt awake, sharp, invincible. The director said your energy was electric. Everyone applauded your performance. That was the hook. From then on, coffee wasn't enough. You traded scrambled eggs for champagne, toast for pills, orange juice for rails of powder. Now, years later, the habit is ritual. The first hit to wake up, the first sip to smooth the edges, the first pill to keep you balanced enough not to spin into paranoia before noon. And once you've done it, once you've swallowed and snorted and chased it down with bubbles, You can almost convince yourself you're ready for the day. Your agent might call. There might be a table read, or a photo shoot, or a lunch meeting that's really just another excuse to drink in public. You might even manage to string sentences together without slurring. That's the magic of your morning routine. It makes the impossible seem possible, at least until the crash hits. The pills sit heavy in your pocket as you wander through the house, barefoot on cold marble, champagne bottle dangling loosely from your hand. The pool outside still smells like chlorine mixed with spilled vodka, and the deck chairs are coated in ash and sunscreen. The sky is blindingly blue, too bright for your swollen eyes. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the faint whir of a helicopter, probably a news crew circling over the city, waiting for the next disaster. You imagine them zooming in on your backyard, catching the glint of the glass table, the passed-out strangers, the half-naked star staggering around at 10 in the morning. It wouldn't even make the front page. Just another headline in a city that feeds on scandal. You take another sip, finish the glass, refill it. The champagne goes down faster now, the bubbles settling uneasily in your empty stomach. Your body feels jittery, your hands shaking slightly as you light a cigarette, the smoke curling around your face. You tell yourself it calms you down, but it only adds another layer to the chemical cocktail already swirling in your blood. Breakfast is working, but it's not satisfying. It never is. It doesn't fill you, doesn't nourish you, doesn't give you strength. It just buys you a few more hours of pretending. You think about food, briefly. Maybe a plate of eggs Benedict at the Ivy. Maybe a steak and eggs brunch with endless mimosas. But you know how it would go. You'd order, push the food around your plate, take 2 bites, and leave most of it untouched. Your appetite left years ago, traded in for the high. You can't even remember the last time you actually felt full. Hunger has been replaced by craving. And craving is easier to manage when you can crush it into a line and make it disappear with a single inhale. The house phone rings again, sharp and insistent. This time you answer, voice raspy, words slurred but enthusiastic. It's your publicist, already in damage control mode, reminding you about the rumours in the trades, the whispers about your weight loss, your missed calls, your erratic behaviour. She tells you the studio is worried, that maybe you should slow down, that maybe you should think about rehab before your career spirals any further. You laugh, tell her you're fine, tell her you're working on new projects, tell her you're sharper than ever. She doesn't believe you, but she won't push. That's the unspoken rule here. Nobody tells the star no, not until it's too late. You hang up, refill the glass, wipe your nose with the back of your hand, and bend down for another line. The burn is worse this time, your sinuses screaming in protest, but the relief is instant. The jitters fade into something that almost feels like focus. You imagine yourself on set, charming, magnetic, alive. The champagne makes you feel glamorous. The pills keep you level. The powder keeps you standing. Together they're your breakfast of champions, the only kind you know. Your body is buzzing, jittery but awake, and now comes the next performance. Not the movie set, not the interview, not even the nightclub. Dressing yourself in the 1980s is its own nightmare. Fashion is supposed to be fun, expressive, glamorous, but in your world it's another battlefield. You stagger toward the closet, glass of champagne in hand, nose still raw from breakfast, and pull open a set of mirrored doors taller than most people's apartments. Inside is a shrine to excess, a kaleidoscope of fabrics and colours that all scream louder than your headache. The smell hits first. It's a confusing fog of leather jackets that haven't been aired out in months, sequined dresses that reek faintly of spilled tequila, and the faint mildew of shoes that were worn barefoot in too many nightclubs. The floor is littered with hangers, silk scarves, empty shopping bags, and a few crushed packets of cigarettes. Somewhere in the chaos, there's a fur coat that still carries the faint smell of the animal it used to be, and a pile of designer jeans with burn marks where stray sparks from someone's cigarette left permanent reminders. You start with the shirts. Everything has shoulder pads. Giant, unapologetic shoulder pads that make you look like you're about to play linebacker instead of attend a casting meeting. They don't fit right. They never do. The cuts are boxy, the fabric synthetic, sticky against your skin. One shirt glitters with sequins that shed every time you move, leaving a trail of sparkly dandruff across the floor. Another is made of neon polyester, so bright it could guide airplanes in for landing. You hold it up to the mirror, squint at your reflection, and wonder who you're trying to impress. The truth is, none of this is for you. It's for the cameras, the photographers, the tabloids waiting to snap you outside a nightclub. Clothes aren't about comfort, they're armour. Loud, scratchy armour that makes you look alive even when you feel half dead. Then there are the pants. Skin-tight leather, acid-wash denim, high-waisted trousers with pleats so aggressive they look like origami experiments. None of them are forgiving. The leather sticks to your thighs, squeaks when you move, and smells faintly of sweat no matter how many times they're dry cleaned. The denim cuts into your waist, stiff and unyielding, designed for someone who doesn't need to bend over without risking a split seam. You shimmy into a pair, sucking in your stomach, praying the zipper doesn't betray you in public. The mirror shows you a figure that looks glamorous in photos, but in reality, every seam pinches, every movement itches, every pose feels like a punishment. Shoes are their own torture device. Rows of stilettos with broken straps, cowboy boots stained with beer, sneakers so neon they practically glow in the dark. You slip your feet into a pair of glossy black boots, the kind with pointed toes and heels that click menacingly on the marble floor. They look powerful, commanding, but after 10 minutes your toes are numb, your ankles weak. Comfort isn't an option. You sacrifice circulation for style because limping is still better than being called unfashionable. Accessories clutter the shelves. Sunglasses with lenses so dark they make it impossible to see indoors. Chunky gold chains that weigh down your neck. Plastic bangles that clack like wind chimes every time you move your arm. Belts with buckles the size of dinner plates. Silk ties in neon prints. Earrings shaped like lightning bolts. Each piece is absurd, but together they create the illusion of someone important, someone untouchable. You know it's all theatre, but you play the role anyway. The act of getting dressed becomes another performance layered on top of all the others. By the time you've chosen a jacket, oversized, shoulder pads wide enough to knock drinks off tables, and layered it over your sequined shirt and skin-tight jeans, you look like a caricature of glamour. The reflection staring back at you in the mirror is bold, loud, iconic even. But underneath, your body is itching from synthetic fibres. Your stomach is gnawing with hunger you refuse to answer. And your mind is racing from the powder still burning in your sinuses. You think about the younger version of yourself, The one who moved to Hollywood with a suitcase of thrift store clothes and a dream. Back then, fashion was whatever you could afford. A pair of jeans worn thin, a t-shirt with holes, sneakers patched with duct tape. Now you have racks of designer pieces, all tailored, all photographed, all archived by gossip magazines. And yet, it doesn't feel like progress. It feels like a costume closet for a character you no longer recognise. By the time you've added the final touches, a cloud of cologne that burns the back of your throat, a pair of sunglasses to hide your bloodshot eyes, a handful of rings that clink against the champagne glass, you're ready to face the world. Not because you feel good, but because you look convincing. And in Hollywood, looking convincing is the only requirement. You spray another blast of cologne into the air, step into it like mist, and choke on the scent as it clings to your hair and clothes. The irony isn't lost on you. You smell expensive, but underneath the layers of perfume and powder, you're rotting. The closet door swings shut behind you, and for a moment the silence feels heavy. You glance around the mansion, past the scattered bottles, the sleeping stranger on the couch, the ashtrays overflowing with last night's evidence. You catch your reflection again, larger than life, wrapped in sequins and shoulder pads, but your eyes betray you. They're dull, tired, older than you want to admit. The fashion hides it for now, but not forever. So you take another swallow of champagne, light another cigarette, and remind yourself that this is the uniform, the armour, the mask. Without it, the cameras would see too much. And in this city, too much honesty is fatal. The outfit is on, the sunglasses are in place, and the champagne buzz is carrying you just enough to stagger toward the garage. Outside, the Los Angeles sun is merciless, burning off the haze that still lingers in your skull. You open the heavy door, and there it is, your fleet of proof that you're important. Cars aren't just transportation here. They're status symbols on wheels, loud declarations of how much money you can burn before breakfast. And the lineup in your garage looks like the world's tackiest car commercial. A Ferrari Testarossa in bright red, a Lamborghini Countach in blinding white, a Porsche 911 with a sunroof that hasn't closed properly in years, and a black Mercedes SL convertible parked crooked because nobody was sober when it was last driven. The smell inside the garage is gasoline, stale beer, and too much cologne. You can still smell last night's attempt at covering the stench of smoke and sweat. A cloud of Dracar Noir sprayed so liberally that the leather seats are permanently infused with it. The Ferrari still reeks of the girl who threw up in the passenger side last week after a night at Studio 54 West. The Porsche smells faintly of cocaine dust, ground into the carpet so deeply that it's basically part of the upholstery now. You grab the keys off the counter, toss them in your hand like dice, and wonder which death trap feels most appropriate for the day. You choose the Lamborghini, because subtlety isn't in your vocabulary anymore. The door swings upward like a spaceship hatch, and you drop yourself into the driver's seat. The leather squeaks, the seatbelt is buried somewhere under empty cigarette packs, and the dashboard is coated in fingerprints of powder that glow faintly in the sunlight. You jam the key into the ignition, twist, and the engine roars awake like a beast that's been force-fed nitrous oxide. The noise is deafening inside the closed garage, reverberating off the concrete, rattling the bottles of cologne still sitting on a shelf near the wall. You ease the car out onto the driveway, sunglasses reflecting the blinding sun, nose still running from the morning's breakfast. At the end of the street, a couple of paparazzi are already parked, cameras aimed at the house waiting for movement. You know their names. You see them every day. They know your car, your routine, your hangover face. You hate them, but at the same time, you need them. Without their photos, the tabloids wouldn't care. Without the tabloids, you'd be yesterday's news. Fame is a parasitic relationship, and they're the ones holding the camera. The moment you hit the road, the Lamborghini grabs attention. Heads turn, horns honk. A convertible full of tourists shouts your name as they pass. You wave lazily, cigarette dangling from your lips, smoke curling out the window. The car isn't easy to drive. It jerks, it growls, it feels like it's trying to kill you with every turn, but that's the point. You don't buy a car like this to blend in. You buy it to be seen, even if it means risking your life on the curves of Mulholland Drive after 3 glasses of champagne. The cologne clings to your clothes, your hair, the steering wheel. You sprayed half the bottle this morning, trying to drown out the stench of sweat, stale booze, and regret. Now it mixes with the smell of burning rubber and exhaust fumes, turning the cabin into a choking cloud of masculinity gone wrong. You crack the window, but it doesn't help. The wind just blows the scent back into your face, mingling with the faint chemical drip sliding down your throat from the lines you snorted an hour ago. Traffic is a nightmare. The freeways are choked with cars, endless lines of steel and glass crawling through smog. You slam your hand on the horn, shout at a station wagon that dares to merge in front of you, and slam the accelerator when the lane clears. The Lamborghini lurches forward, tyres squealing, engine howling. You weave through traffic, reckless and impatient, because patience is for people without drugs in their bloodstream. Every red light feels like a personal insult. Every cop car that passes makes your stomach clench. You know you're not sober enough to drive, but sobriety hasn't been part of your mornings in years. At the next intersection, the paparazzi are waiting. They've been following since you left the house, weaving through traffic in battered sedans, cameras pressed against the glass. The flashes go off even in daylight, strobing your vision, leaving spots in your eyes. You shout at them, flip them off, but it doesn't matter. They'll get their shot, and tomorrow it'll be plastered on the front of a tabloid, star looking wasted, star driving erratically, star probably on drugs. None of it will be false, but all of it will be sold as scandal instead of truth. You pull up outside a cafe on Sunset, a place where no one actually eats, but everyone pretends they're there for food. You park illegally, toss the keys at a valet who looks like he's barely 16, and stride toward the entrance. The cologne hits first, a suffocating wave that announces your arrival before the cameras can. The paparazzi swarm, shouting your name, shoving lenses in your face, snapping photos of your bloodshot eyes behind the oversized sunglasses. You shove past them, mutter something about needing coffee, though you know you won't touch it once you're inside. Coffee doesn't compete with champagne and powder. The cafe is filled with the same faces every morning. Actors pretending they're not hungover, producers pretending they're not broke, models pretending they're not starving. Everyone reeks of cologne or perfume, heavy clouds of scent designed to mask the truth. The air is thick enough to choke on, a cocktail of Calvin Klein, Georgia Beverly Hills, and Dracar Noir layered over the smell of hairspray and cigarettes. You slide into a booth, light another cigarette, and order a mimosa you won't drink. The cameras press against the windows outside, lenses peeking through the blinds. You can't escape them. Not here. Not anywhere. The cologne is still burning your throat, making your champagne taste sour. You dab at your face with a napkin, trying to wipe away the sweat that's breaking through under the sequined shirt and leather jacket. The outfit feels tighter now, suffocating under the heat of the cafe lights. You tug at the collar, spray another quick burst of cologne onto your wrist, rub it against your neck, as if more of the same smell will somehow fix the problem. It doesn't. It just makes you dizzy. When you finally leave, the cameras follow you back to the Lamborghini. You slide into the driver's seat, slam the door shut, and let the engine roar again. The paparazzi scatter, their cameras still flashing, their voices still shouting. You peel out of the lot, tyres squealing, smoke rising from the asphalt. The cologne lingers in the air like a curse, clinging to your skin, your clothes, your car. You can't wash it off. Not with water, not with soap. It's part of you now, just like the powder, just like the champagne, just like the lies. You don't survive this city on talent alone. Talent gets you in the door, but once you're inside, it's the handlers who keep you from getting thrown out on your face. You have an agent, you have a manager, you have a publicist, and somewhere in the mix, you probably have a lawyer who pretends to care about your well-being as long as the checks clear. They orbit around you like satellites, each one tugging at your life with its own gravity, each one lying for you, so that the fragile illusion of success doesn't crack in daylight. The first call of the day is usually the agent. His voice comes through the landline crisp and fake, a combination of caffeine and greed. He talks fast, never pausing, rattling off auditions, meetings, scripts, percentages. He tells you which studio head is interested in you, which rival actor is about to burn out, which deal is yours to lose if you can just show up sober enough to string sentences together. He's not your friend. He's a bookie who happens to gamble exclusively on your name. If you hit, he gets his cut. If you collapse, he's already lining up the next client. He laughs at your jokes, but only because laughter oils the gears of business. The second you're no longer profitable, the laughter stops. Then there's the manager. He calls right after the agent, repeating most of the same information but stretching it into pep talk territory. He reminds you of your talent, your potential, your unique place in the industry. He tells you that people are counting on you, that fans believe in you, that you can't let a little partying get in the way. He's part cheerleader, part babysitter, part emotional blackmailer. His job is to keep you motivated enough to keep earning, but not motivated enough to think you don't need him. If you slip, he's there with excuses. If you stumble, he's there with a broom to sweep the mess under the rug. He talks like family, but family doesn't charge 15%. The publicist is the real artist. She's the one who takes your chaos and spins it into headlines that won't destroy you. Every missed interview becomes exhaustion. Every car crash becomes an unfortunate misunderstanding. Every nosebleed at an award show is allergies. She knows which photographers to call, which ones to pay off, which ones to invite into the house for a carefully staged, candid shot of you looking healthy with a green juice you'll never drink. She drafts statements you don't read, apologises for behaviour you don't remember, and smiles through phone calls with journalists who already know the truth but want to see how creatively she can lie. She's the reason your name is still worth printing, the reason studios haven't cut you loose, the reason you're still standing in front of cameras instead of slumped behind them. Together, they form a wall between you and reality, a constantly buzzing buffer zone of lies, excuses, half-truths, and damage control. When you oversleep and miss a call time, your publicist says you were stuck in traffic. When you stumble out of a nightclub at 4 a.m, your agent insists you are celebrating a new role. When you're caught on film clearly out of your mind, your manager swears you're just exhausted from working too hard. They create a version of you that's cleaner, sharper, healthier, more disciplined. A fictional character named You, who looks like the one on the posters, but lives nothing like the one in the mansion. You learn quickly that these people aren't protecting you. They're protecting the investment. You're the product, the brand, the face that keeps checks coming in. If the product malfunctions, they polish the exterior, slap a new label on it, and keep selling it until it finally breaks beyond repair. They call you with fake warmth, show up with fake smiles, and tell you what you want to hear because the truth doesn't pay. If you believe them, you can keep staggering forward. If you don't, you start to see the cracks, and the cracks are endless. Sometimes they fight each other, clawing over percentages and influence. The agent wants more control over your schedule. The manager wants a bigger cut of the back end. The publicist wants you to shut up during interviews because every unscripted sentence is another potential headline. They argue in offices and restaurants while you sit there, sunglasses on indoors, chain smoking and pretending to care. They call it representing your best interests, but really it's just carving up your carcass while you're still breathing. You think about firing them sometimes, cleaning house, starting fresh. But then you remember the truth. Without them, you'd be naked in front of the world. Every bad photo would run unedited. Every missed meeting would be reported. Every scandal would spread without a filter. You'd be chewed up and spit out by the same machine that raised you up. So you let them keep lying, because their lies are the only thing keeping you alive in this business. The irony is that you lie too. You learn to play your part in the theatre they've built for you. You step in front of cameras and repeat the lines they've written. I'm taking a break to focus on my health. I'm so grateful for my fans. I'm excited for this new project. You say it with a smile, even though your jaw aches from grinding your teeth all night. You sit on talk show couches and laugh at jokes you don't hear. Nod along to compliments you don't believe. You perform the role of yourself, and the audience claps. The cycle is endless. You mess up, they cover. You collapse, they distract. You resurface, they sell the comeback. It's a grotesque choreography, a dance no one admits to, but everyone participates in. The agent feeds the manager feeds the publicist feeds the press, and the press feeds the machine that feeds you until you're too hollow to be fed anymore. The idea of fitness in Hollywood in the 1980s was less about health and more about optics. You don't wake up thinking about heart rate, cholesterol, or joint preservation. You wake up thinking about magazine covers, the paparazzi photos splashed across tabloids, the way your arms look when you're holding a champagne flute at a nightclub. In this world, working out isn't about strength or longevity. It's about maintaining a fragile illusion, polishing the exterior of a collapsing house, keeping the camera convinced even when your body is screaming for mercy. The morning starts not with stretches, not with hydration, but with more powder. Cocaine is the warm-up, the only thing that convinces your stiff limbs to get moving at all. It sharpens you, or at least tricks you into thinking you're sharp. Your chest tightens, your nose burns, but suddenly you have energy. Not real energy, but the kind that feels like borrowed electricity running through a frayed wire. You stumble toward the home gym, glass of champagne in hand, already sweating from the effort of simply existing. The home gym looks impressive on the surface. Mirrored walls, chrome dumbbells lined up in neat rows, a treadmill that cost more than most people's cars, a universal machine with more pulleys than you'll ever know how to use. Posters of chiseled bodies from glossy magazines are tacked to the wall, aspirational images meant to inspire discipline. The reality is that the equipment is mostly for show. The treadmill's belt is stained with spilled beer. The dumbbells are coated with a sticky film of hairspray and cigarette ash. And the exercise bike has been used more often as a place to hang sequined jackets than to actually pedal. You crank the stereo, blasting music that's supposed to motivate, but only adds to the chaos in your skull. Synthesizers and drum machines pound through the speakers, drowning out your wheezing breath. You strip down to spandex shorts or lycra leggings that cling uncomfortably to your sweat-slick skin. Maybe you throw on a neon headband, not because it helps, but because everyone else wears one in the magazines. The outfit is less about function and more about looking like you're committed to health, even if your version of health involves cigarettes, pills, and 3 hours of sleep. You start with push-ups. The first few feel like lifting cinder blocks off your chest. Your arms tremble, your shoulders ache, your wrists protest under the weight. You grunt, sweat dripping onto the carpet, which already smells faintly of mildew and cheap cologne. After 5 reps, you're exhausted. You roll onto your back, chest heaving, heart pounding like it's trying to break free. But you can't stop. Not when you know later today someone might photograph you shirtless by the pool, and that photo will end up plastered across a magazine cover with a headline about your beach body. So you drag yourself to the weights. Dumbbells clatter as you lift them half-heartedly, biceps straining, veins bulging, sweat pouring down your face. Each curl feels heavier than it should. Your muscles aren't fueled by nutrition. They're fueled by stimulants and denial. The powder keeps you moving, but it also keeps your heart racing dangerously fast. You know this. You've heard the stories of stars collapsing mid-set, sudden heart attacks in their 30s, funerals where the eulogies all mention stress instead of cocaine. But you keep going, because what's the alternative? Looking soft in tomorrow's photos? Sit-ups come next. You flop onto a mat that smells faintly of old sweat and cigarette smoke, lace your fingers behind your head, and start crunching forward. Each movement sends a wave of nausea through your stomach. There's nothing in there but champagne bubbles and chemicals, so the acid rises fast, burning your throat, making your eyes water. You push through, counting out loud, lying to yourself about how many you've actually done. The mirror across the room reflects your contorted face, your sunken cheeks, your skin stretched taut over bones that should carry more weight. But the angles are still sharp, and in photos, sharp angles sell. Cardio is always a disaster. You climb onto the treadmill, crank the speed, and start running like you're being chased. Within minutes, your lungs are on fire, your heart hammering against your ribs, sweat pouring down your temples. Your legs feel like lead pipes, clumsy and stiff. You trip on the belt, stumble, nearly faceplant into the control panel. You steady yourself, laugh, tell yourself it's fine, keep running even though you know every step is pushing you closer to collapse. The powder tricks you into thinking you can outrun exhaustion. The champagne sloshing in your stomach tells you otherwise. When you finally step off the treadmill, the room spins. Your vision blurs, your ears ring, and for a moment you're certain you're about to faint. You stagger to the universal machine, sit down, and start pulling on cables without really knowing which muscles you're supposed to be working. You go through the motions, sweating, trembling, grunting. To anyone watching, it might look like dedication. To you, it feels like punishment. A ritual of pain designed not to make you stronger, but to keep the facade intact a little longer. The smell of cologne hangs heavy in the room. You sprayed it before coming in, a reflex to cover the sour stink of your body. Now, mixed with sweat, it creates a nauseating fog that clings to your hair, your clothes, your skin. Every breath tastes like synthetic musk. Your chest feels tight, your throat raw, your eyes watering. But you don't stop spraying. You grab the bottle on the shelf, douse yourself again, layering scent over sweat, until the air feels thick enough to chew. A cigarette dangles from your lips, even as you move through the motions. You light one, set it on the edge of the weight bench, puff between sets, ash falling onto the carpet. Smoke curls through the air, mixing with cologne and sweat until the room feels like a gas chamber designed by a fashion magazine. You cough, spit into an empty champagne glass, wipe your mouth with the back of your hand, and keep going. The absurdity doesn't register. This is normal now. Cigarettes between curls, champagne between crunches, powder between breaths. Some mornings you invite friends over, fellow stars or hangers-on, and the gym becomes a stage. Everyone pretends to be dedicated, posing in front of mirrors, flexing biceps, snapping Polaroids to prove they were working out. In reality, most of the time is spent passing around a silver tray of lines, laughing too loudly, sweating through neon spandex while blasting Prince or Madonna. The exercise is secondary. The real workout is keeping up the image, convincing the outside world that you're fit, disciplined, glowing with health. Nobody sees the shakes, the nosebleeds, the coughing fits. Nobody wants to. When the workout is done, you collapse onto the bench, body trembling, lungs burning, heart racing dangerously fast. You wipe sweat from your forehead with a towel already stiff from yesterday's sweat. The mirror shows a figure that looks lean, toned, photo-ready. But you know the truth. The muscle is fragile, the skin thin, the strength an illusion built on chemicals and denial. You're not building a body. You're patching together a mask. One desperate curl, one shaky push-up, one ragged run at a time. You stagger out of the gym, light another cigarette, and tell yourself you feel good, energized, ready for the day. But your chest aches, your head spins, your stomach churns. You reach for the champagne bottle on the counter, take a long swallow, and wash down another pill. The powder still drips down the back of your throat, bitter and metallic. Your body screams for rest, for water, for food. You give it cologne, nicotine, alcohol, and stimulants instead. The workout isn't about health. It never was. It's about survival in a city where image is oxygen, where one bad photo can kill a career faster than an overdose. You tell yourself the sweat is worth it, that the pain is proof of dedication, that the dizziness is just temporary. You tell yourself you look good, and maybe you do, in the distorted reflection of a camera flash. But beneath the spandex, beneath the cologne, beneath the powder. Your body is crumbling. And tomorrow morning, you'll do it all again. The workout leaves your body buzzing, your nose still raw, your chest tight from the champagne and smoke, but there's no time to collapse on the couch. You have somewhere to be, because even in this city, even at your level, auditions don't stop. Scripts keep circulating, roles keep opening, and if you miss one too many chances, the studios stop calling. Everyone wants to believe the myth that once you're famous, jobs fall into your lap. The truth is uglier. Even when you're in the magazines, even when the paparazzi chase you through traffic, you still sit in waiting rooms with 100 other faces, all of them hungry, all of them desperate, all of them willing to watch you burn if it means they get your part. The audition room is never glamorous. You roll up in your Lamborghini, shades covering the hangover in your eyes, cologne choking out the smell of sweat and chemicals, but inside the studio, it's just beige carpets and fluorescent lights that make everyone look 10 years older. The receptionist doesn't care who you are. She hands you a clipboard, tells you to fill out the form, and points to a row of plastic chairs already filled with carbon copies of yourself. Every face is familiar. Some were in last week's nightclub photos, grinning with their noses powdered. Others are newcomers, wide-eyed kids from the Midwest still carrying the smell of bus stations and cheap motels. They all stare when you walk in, some with jealousy, some with recognition, some with quiet hope that you'll screw this up and free the role for them. You sit down, cross your legs in tight leather pants that squeak against the chair, and pretend to read the sides. The lines blur on the page, your head pounding from lack of sleep, your nose dripping onto the paper. You wipe it quickly, sniff hard, pray the casting director doesn't notice. A plastic cup of lukewarm water sits on a side table, but you don't touch it. Water is foreign now, suspicious. You light a cigarette instead, ignoring the no smoking sign taped to the wall. The receptionist glares, but says nothing. Nobody tells the star to put it out. The waiting drags on. Every 5 minutes, someone's name is called. They disappear into the room, and a few minutes later, they emerge looking broken, muttering to themselves, clutching their script like a security blanket. You laugh under your breath, but the truth is you're just as scared. No amount of fame erases the fact that auditions are humiliation rituals. You stand under blinding lights, perform half-baked emotions for strangers sitting behind folding tables, and wait to be judged in silence. It's not art, it's slaughter. When your name is finally called, you flick your cigarette into a styrofoam cup, adjust your sunglasses, and swagger into the room. The casting director doesn't look up from his notes. The assistant barely glances at you. The director, if he's even there, looks bored already. You clear your throat, try to ignore the tremor in your voice and begin the scene. The words stumble out, half memorized, half improvised, your jaw clenching from the powder still rattling around your system. Your hands shake, so you shove them in your pockets. Sweat beads on your forehead, dripping down into the collar of your sequined shirt. You feel ridiculous, exposed, desperate. The lines don't land. The room stays silent. They thank you politely, which is worse than outright rejection. Politeness means they've already decided. You're not right, not today, not for this. You smile anyway, toss out a joke, try to charm them into remembering you, but their eyes are already back on their papers. You leave the room, sunglasses on again, pretending you don't care. But you do. You care too much. Back in the waiting area, the other actors watch you. Some smirk, some look away. Some take mental notes about how vulnerable you looked in there. You push past them, grab your leather jacket, and storm out to the parking lot. The sun blinds you again, cameras flash from the sidewalk, and the whole circus starts over. But the audition itself is only half the game. The real blood sport happens in the studios, behind closed doors, in offices filled with cigar smoke and cheap whiskey. Studio politics is less about talent and more about leverage. Which agent you're signed with? Which producer owes you a favour? Which executive wants to be photographed at a party with you on their arm? Scripts are currency, and who gets cast often comes down to who has the better connections, not who reads the lines better under fluorescent lights. Your agent calls before you have even pulled out of the parking lot. He tells you not to worry, that the director loved you, that the casting director just didn't understand your energy. He promises to follow up, to work the phones, to make sure your name stays in the mix. You know he's lying, but you let him keep talking. It's easier to believe the spin than to admit the truth. He drops the name of another project, another role that's perfect for you, another audition you'll have to drag yourself to tomorrow. The cycle doesn't stop. At the studio, the conversations are even uglier. Executives sit around polished conference tables, sipping mineral water, making decisions that will define careers. They flip through headshots like they're trading cards. They talk about you in terms of marketability, not ability. Can he sell tickets overseas? Does she look good on a poster? Will the gossip columns keep them relevant long enough for the opening weekend? Nobody talks about craft, or art, or performance. It's numbers, demographics, leverage. You're not a person, you're a product. Sometimes you're invited to these meetings, paraded in front of executives like a show pony. You shake hands, flash a smile, pretend you're sober. They compliment your last film, even if they hated it. They ask about your process, though they don't care about the answer. They want to see if you still look like money in a chair, if you can still light up a room even when the light in your eyes has long since gone out. You laugh at their jokes, even the bad ones, because laughter oils the gears. You sip champagne from a glass someone else poured, nod along to promises that mean nothing, and hope nobody notices your hands trembling under the table. The politics extend to your so-called peers. Other actors, the ones you bump into at auditions and premieres, aren't friends. They're competitors. They smile to your face, compliment your work, toast to your success, then call their agent the moment you leave the room to angle for the same role. Gossip spreads faster than cocaine in this town. Every missed meeting, every sloppy audition, every tabloid photo becomes a weapon. If you stumble, someone else is waiting to take your place. The circle is ruthless, and nobody survives without scars. You learn to play the game, to shake hands with people you hate, to compliment movies you never watched, to pretend you're grateful for opportunities that feel like insults. You attend charity galas, not because you care about the cause, but because it puts your name in variety. You sit on talk show couches, not because you enjoy the host's banter, but because the studio insists it's good promotion. You show up to award shows with a frozen smile, clapping politely for winners who secretly disgust you, because the camera is always watching. Every audition, every meeting, every handshake is another layer of performance. You're not just acting on screen, you're acting in the hallways, in the offices, in the parking lots. The role never ends, the script changes daily, but the part is always the same. be dazzling, be marketable, be bulletproof. And if you can't be those things, then at least look like you're trying. The truth that you're exhausted, sick, unravelling, is never allowed to leak through. That's what the handlers are for. They mop up the mess, polish the exterior, and keep the show moving. By the time you crawl back into your Lamborghini, the sun is low in the sky, your body aching from the treadmill, your head still pounding from the audition. You light another cigarette, spray another round of cologne, and tell yourself it'll get easier. That tomorrow's audition will be better, that the next studio meeting will go your way, that the next handshake won't feel so hollow. But deep down, you know the cycle won't change. This is the job. Endless auditions, endless politics, endless pretending. And it never stops, not until the cameras stop pointing your way. The phone rings again, this time with urgency. It isn't the agent, it isn't the manager, it isn't the publicist whispering excuses. It's the studio assistant reminding you about your interview, daytime television. The kind of slot watched by millions of people who don't know the difference between a performance and a breakdown. Housewives, retirees, kids homesick from school, all glued to their screens, waiting for you to sit on a couch and convince them you're still the bright, shining star they've seen on posters. It doesn't matter that you've had 3 hours of sleep. It doesn't matter that your heart feels like it's beating inside a paper bag. It doesn't matter that your nose is raw and bleeding. The cameras don't care, and neither does the studio. You stagger to the bathroom mirror. The reflection is unkind. Bloodshot eyes, skin puffy and blotched, hair sticking up in angles that defy gravity even without hairspray. Your teeth look like they've been soaking in coffee grounds. There's a thin smear of dried blood under one nostril. You wipe it away with a wet towel, splash cold water on your face, and immediately regret it as the powder burn in your sinuses ignites. You mutter a curse, grab a fresh razor, and shave badly, cutting yourself twice along the jawline. The cologne will sting later, but that's the least of your problems. Wardrobe is simple enough. Another oversized blazer with shoulder pads sharp enough to cut glass. A pair of jeans that don't quite fit. A t-shirt with a brand name you don't even like. Or you throw on sunglasses, spray another cloud of cologne until the bathroom smells like a chemical factory, and pop 2 pills to calm the shakes. Breakfast is a quick line on the glass table, one more bump of powder to clear your head, stop your eyelids from sagging. It burns, your eyes water, your throat fills with the bitter taste of chemicals. But within seconds, you feel alive again. Alive enough to fake it. The studio car arrives on time. A black Lincoln, glossy and clean, smelling faintly of air freshener and leather. And the driver doesn't talk. He doesn't need to. He's seen it all before. Stars staggering out of houses, noses raw, hands trembling, cologne choking the air. He knows better than to comment. You sink into the back seat, pull out another cigarette, and light it with shaking hands. The smoke calms you, or at least distracts you from the pounding in your chest. The city rolls by, outside the tinted windows. Palm trees, billboards, traffic stretching for miles. All of it blurred by fatigue and chemicals. When you arrive at the studio, the crowd is already there. A line of fans, mostly middle-aged women, clutching glossy magazines with your face on the cover. They cheer when you step out of the car, their voices shrill, their smiles wide. The cameras flash immediately. Paparazzi swarm the entrance, shouting your name, snapping photos of your sunglasses, your blazer, your fake smile. You wave, blow a kiss, pretend you're happy to be there. Inside, your stomach is twisting, your throat dry, your skin itching under the layers of fabric. But the performance has already begun, and you can't stop now. Backstage is chaos. Assistants rushing back and forth, clipboards in hand, headsets crackling with instructions. Someone shoves a cup of coffee into your hand, but you set it down immediately. Coffee won't help. You take another drag off your cigarette, exhale into the crowded hallway, and ignore the dirty looks from the interns scurrying past. A makeup artist pulls you into a chair, starts dabbing foundation onto your face, powdering over the blotches, concealing the dark circles under your eyes. She doesn't comment on the way your skin feels clammy, or the faint tremor in your jaw, or the blood that still seeps from the cut on your cheek. She's painted over worse. Your publicist appears, clipboard in hand, smile plastered across her face. She runs through the talking points, the scripted answers you're supposed to give when the host asks about your new film, your personal life, your healthy lifestyle. You nod, half listening, nose twitching as the powder drip crawls down your throat. She warns you not to ramble, not to mention last week's club bender, not to let slip the name of the co-star you've been sleeping with. She hands you a bottle of mineral water, tells you to sip it on camera so you look refreshed. You take it, knowing you won't drink it. Finally, it's time. You're guided down a hallway toward the stage. The lights grow brighter, the air hotter, the noise of the studio audience swelling as you get closer. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your head buzzes. The powder keeps you upright, but barely. The stage manager counts you down, 3, 2, 1, and then you're walking out into the blinding spotlight. The applause is deafening. The host beams, arms wide, welcoming you like a long-lost friend. You wave, flash your biggest smile, and sink into the couch across from him. The interview begins. The host asks about your latest movie, the one you barely remember filming. You laugh, tell a rehearsed anecdote about the director, about a prank on set, about how much fun it was. The audience chuckles, the host nods approvingly. You keep talking, words spilling out too fast, your jaw tight, your eyes darting around the room. The powder makes you confident, maybe too confident. You interrupt the host, ramble about unrelated topics, laugh too loudly at your own jokes. The audience claps anyway because they're told to. The host asks about your health, about how you stay in shape with such a demanding schedule. You grin, tug at your blazer, and lie. You talk about early mornings at the gym, about a love for running, about eating clean and drinking water. The audience nods, inspired, completely unaware that your breakfast was champagne and cocaine, that your lungs are black with smoke, that your stomach hasn't seen real food in days. The lie slides easily off your tongue. It always does. Then comes the personal question. The host leans in, eyes twinkling, asking about your love life. The tabloids have been circling, rumours flying about late nights at clubs, about partners caught sneaking out of your house at dawn. You chuckle, deflect, offer a vague answer about being focused on your work. The audience sighs, the host smiles knowingly, and the conversation moves on. The powder helps here too. It keeps you quick, sharp, ready with quips and jokes. The truth never slips out. The truth is locked away, hidden behind layers of chemicals and cologne. Halfway through, your nose betrays you. A sudden drip, a faint tickle, the threat of blood. You sniff hard, wipe your nose casually with the back of your hand, laugh as if the joke you just told was that funny. The makeup artist watching from the sidelines stiffens, but you recover quickly. The cameras don't catch it. The audience doesn't notice. The host keeps smiling. You keep talking. The performance continues. When the segment ends, the applause swells again. You stand, shake the host's hand, wave to the audience. The lights blind you. The heat suffocates you. The cologne burns your throat. But you smile through it all, because that's the job. You exit the stage, collapse into the hallway, and immediately demand another cigarette. The makeup artist wipes sweat from your forehead. The publicist pats your back. The assistant hands you a fresh bottle of water you won't drink. The cameras are off now, but the performance doesn't stop. It never stops. Back in the car, the city blurs past again. The magazines will run photos from the interview tomorrow. Star looks radiant, the headlines will say. Charms audience with humour and honesty. Nobody will mention the powder. Nobody will mention the shakes. Nobody will mention the way you nearly collapsed in the hallway afterward. The image is what matters. The lie is what sells. And as long as you can keep snorting, keep smiling, keep lying, the machine keeps rolling. The interview is over, the makeup is wiped off, and the studio car is waiting to drag you to the next performance of the day. Not a set, not an audition, not even a photo shoot. This one is stranger. A lunch meeting. In any other world, lunch means eating, relaxing, maybe catching up with friends. Here, lunch is a transaction disguised as a meal. Nobody orders food because nobody eats food. Everyone orders, but the plates sit untouched, growing cold while the real business happens between cigarette drags and champagne refills. The driver drops you in front of a restaurant on Sunset that prides itself on exclusivity. White tablecloths, brass fixtures, waiters in stiff jackets. The kind of place where the maitre d' knows every face, where getting a table is a power move, where the walls themselves seem to whisper deals and betrayals. The moment you walk in, heads turn. Sunglasses flash in the dim light. Whispers ripple through the room. You're a star, but you're not alone. Every booth is packed with agents, producers, directors, and stars pretending to enjoy their Perrier while silently plotting each other's downfalls. You're led to a corner table, half hidden by a potted plant that probably costs more than your first apartment. The agent is already there, tie loosened, smile fixed, phone buzzing on the table. Next to him is a producer with a tan that looks sprayed on, a Rolex glinting under the soft lighting. A studio executive joins moments later, his hair slicked back, his suit sharp enough to cut glass. They all rise to greet you, all smiles, all pats on the back, all teeth. You sit, wave off the wine list, and light a cigarette instead. The waiter hovers, polite but impatient. Menus are handed out, glanced at, set aside. Everyone orders something different, but it's all for show. A Cobb salad, a grilled salmon, a steak tartare. You order pasta, knowing full well it'll sit untouched. The waiter scribbles notes, collects the menus, and disappears. The real meal is already on the table. A silver tray, carried in discreetly by your publicist, laid out like a centerpiece, covered in neat lines of powder. Nobody blinks, nobody protests. They just smile, nod, and dive in like it's breadsticks at Olive Garden. Conversation begins in fits and starts. The agent talks about opportunities, dropping names like confetti. The producer brags about his latest project, A movie already over budget and weeks behind schedule. The studio exec talks numbers, overseas markets, merchandising rights. You nod, smile, laugh when appropriate. The powder keeps your energy sharp, your grin wide, your eyes bright. You lean in, crack jokes, slap backs. The performance is flawless, at least on the surface. The waiter returns with drinks. Champagne for you, whiskey for the producer, mineral water for the executive who's pretending to care about his liver. Glasses clink, toasts are made. Nobody touches the water. The champagne goes down fast, bubbles cutting through the chemical drip in your throat. Cigarettes burn one after another, ash piling up in the crystal tray at the centre of the table. The air grows thick with smoke, but nobody complains. In fact, the haze feels necessary, a veil that hides the emptiness of the ritual. The food arrives eventually, carried in on silver trays, plates set carefully before each person. It looks beautiful, art on porcelain. Perfectly seared salmon, bright green salads, pasta with shaved truffles. The smell is rich, overwhelming, nauseating. You push the food around your plate with a fork, tearing the pasta into smaller and smaller pieces without ever lifting one to your mouth. The others do the same. Forks clink, knives scrape, but nobody eats. To eat would be to admit you're human, that you feel hunger, that you need fuel. In this world, hunger is weakness. Image is survival. So the food becomes decoration, a prop in the scene you're all acting out. The conversation grows louder as the powder takes hold. Voices overlap, laughter rings out, deals are half made, half forgotten. The producer slams his hand on the table, swears his next project will make history, promises you a lead role if you sign today. The executive raises an eyebrow, talks about budgets, about foreign sales, about what kind of star power really sells tickets. The agent keeps cutting in, reminding everyone that you're worth more, that your name alone can guarantee box office success. You sit back, sip your champagne, and let them fight over you like vultures squabbling over a carcass. The waiter hovers again, nervous now. He points out the untouched plates, asks if everything is satisfactory. Everyone smiles, nods, lies. Delicious, the producer says, stabbing a piece of salmon and setting it back down untouched. Perfect, the executive agrees, nudging his salad around the plate. You mutter something about being full, even though your stomach hasn't seen real food in days. The waiter nods, collects the plates, and disappears. None of it was eaten. None of it ever is. The meeting drags on for hours. Cigarettes burn down to filters. Bottles of champagne empty one after another. The silver tray of powder is scraped clean, the razor blade glinting under the low lights. The laughter grows louder, the promises bolder, the lies thicker. Scripts are mentioned, projects discussed, money tossed around like Monopoly cash. Nothing is written down. Nothing is official. Everything is smoke, powder, and ego. By tomorrow, half of it will be forgotten, but in the moment, it feels monumental. At some point, a photographer slips in, pretending to be casual, snapping a few shots of you with the producer, with the executive, with the agent. Smiles are plastered on, glasses raised, cigarettes dangling artfully between fingers. The photos will run in variety, proof that you're in talks, that deals are being made, that your star is still rising. The truth, that the only thing consumed at the meeting was powder and alcohol, won't make the page. When the meeting finally ends, you stagger out into the blinding afternoon sun. The paparazzi are waiting, cameras flashing, shouting questions about your next project, your love life, your night at the club. You wave, grin, blow a kiss, pretend you're sober. The agent claps you on the back, promises big things. The producer hugs you, reeks of whiskey and cologne, swears you'll hear from him tomorrow. The executive nods stiffly, already calculating numbers in his head. They scatter to their cars, leaving you standing on the sidewalk, stomach empty, head spinning, lungs aching from smoke. You climb into the back of the Lincoln again, slam the door, light another cigarette. Your stomach growls, louder this time, insistent. You ignore it. Food isn't part of the job. Hunger is just another feeling to be numbed with powder and champagne. You close your eyes, lean back against the leather seat, and let the city blur past again. Lunch is over, but nothing was eaten. Nothing ever is. The ritual will repeat tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. Restaurants change, faces change, but the script stays the same. Order food, don't eat it. Drink champagne, smoke cigarettes, do lines in the bathroom. Talk about movies that may never be made. Lie about being healthy, happy, stable. Smile for the cameras. Pretend the hunger doesn't exist. Pretend the hunger is glamour. Pretend it's all worth it. The car drops you at the studio lot, and from the moment the gates swing open, the whole place feels like a circus built on lies. The air is heavy with exhaust fumes from trucks hauling equipment. The heat of the California sun beating down on trailers lined up like mobile prisons. Extras mill around in costume, smoking cigarettes, laughing too loudly, trying to look important, even though nobody knows their names. Assistants dart back and forth with clipboards, headsets crackling, faces tense. Someone yells about call times, someone else screams about wardrobe, and over it all is the hum of machinery, the clatter of metal, the clang of set construction. It should feel like a factory, but it feels like chaos disguised as industry. You're ushered toward your trailer, the one with your name taped to the door in big black letters. It's supposed to feel like respect, like you've made it, but the tape is curling at the edges and the handle is sticky from spilled soda. Inside, the air is stale. The couch is stiff. The mirror smeared with fingerprints. The tiny fridge buzzing loudly in the corner. A tray waits on the counter, neatly prepared with lines of powder. A few bottles of champagne chilling in a bucket of ice that's already half melted. And a pack of cigarettes with one missing. You don't even bother to sit before leaning over the counter, sniffing hard, letting the powder burn into your sinuses, numbing the ache in your head. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, it doesn't matter. The ritual is the same. The knock comes almost immediately. An assistant pokes her head in, eyes darting nervously, telling you they're ready for you on set. You nod, grab the champagne bottle and follow. The hallways smell like sweat and hairspray, makeup powder and electrical cords. Crew members weave around you, hauling lights, setting cables, muttering about schedules already running behind. Everyone pretends this is professional, but nobody looks sober. Not really. The set itself is surreal. Massive fake walls painted to look like apartments or offices, lights blindingly bright, cameras as big as refrigerators rolling on tracks. Dozens of people stand around waiting for you, watching you, whispering to each other when you stumble slightly or wipe your nose too obviously. The director sits in a chair with his name printed on the back, barking orders into a megaphone, waving his hands like a conductor who's long since lost control of the orchestra. The producers hover nearby, muttering about budgets, flipping through pages of scripts, pretending they're in charge. Everyone's anxious. Everyone's tense. Everyone's pretending this is about art when it's really about money. Wardrobe fusses with your jacket, tugging at the collar, smoothing wrinkles, dabbing at the sweat already forming on your forehead. Makeup pats your face with powder, trying to hide the puffiness under your eyes, the redness around your nose, the sheen of oil on your skin. They don't comment. They never do. Their job is to conceal, not to question. You take another quick sip of champagne, light another cigarette, and wait for the call. When the cameras roll, the circus begins. You step onto the set, hit your mark, try to remember your lines. The words blur together, slipping from your brain as quickly as they were memorized. The powder helps, keeps you sharp for a moment, but then it slips too, leaving you fumbling, pausing, glancing around for a prompt. The director shouts, "Cut!" angrily, storms onto the set, gesticulates wildly about timing and tone. You nod, apologise, promise to do better. He storms back to his chair. The crew rolls their eyes. The cameras start again. Take after take, the same scene repeats. You flub lines, forget block-in, miss cues. Your jaw tightens, your hands tremble, your heart races. Between takes, you rush back to the trailer. Snort another line, gulp another sip. Return with forced confidence. The cycle continues. Powder, performance, failure, repeat. The crew grows restless, the director grows furious, the producers whisper louder. You're costing them money, wasting time, dragging the schedule. But they can't fire you. Your name is the only reason this movie exists, the only thing keeping investors happy. They'll endure the chaos, at least for now. You're not alone. The other actors are just as wrecked. One stumbles through his lines, slurring slightly, his eyes glazed. Another disappears between takes, returning 10 minutes later with pupils blown wide, jaw grinding like a machine. The set smells faintly of chemicals, not just from the lights and paint, but from the bodies pumping powder through their veins. Everyone pretends it's fine. Nobody calls it out. This is normal now. The director tries to keep control, but his voice cracks with frustration. He's sweating through his shirt, chain smoking, drinking coffee like it's the only thing tethering him to the ground. His hands shake when he gestures. His eyes dart nervously at the producers. He knows his job depends on this movie finishing, on you pulling it together long enough to get through the script. But you can't pull it together. Not really. You can only fake it, line by line, scene by scene, until the cameras cut. The circus spills over into the crew. Electricians sneak off for bumps in the corners of the soundstage. Makeup artists whisper about whose nose is bleeding this time. Wardrobe assistants trade pills like candy, popping them in the open, laughing too loudly when someone asks for Advil and is handed a Quaalude instead. The whole machine runs on chemicals, each cog greased with powder, smoke, and booze. Nobody admits it, but everyone knows. Lunch on set is a joke. Tables are laid out with catering, silver trays of pasta, chicken, vegetables, desserts. Nobody eats. The actors push food around their plates, stabbing at lettuce, sipping champagne, sneaking off to trailers for the real meal. Crew members pick at bread rolls, cigarettes dangling from their mouths, eyes bloodshot from long hours and little sleep. The food grows cold, uneaten, scraped into trash bins at the end of the break. The trash smells like waste, like lies, like the secret everyone already knows. Nobody here fuels themselves with food. By afternoon, the set is chaos. Tempers flare. The director yells, actors argue, crew members mutter under their breath. The cameras roll, cut, roll again, cut again. The studio executives visit, standing stiffly at the back of the room, whispering to each other about delays, about costs, about whether you're still bankable enough to justify the disaster. They don't confront you. Not directly. They'll let the handlers do that later. For now, they just watch, eyes sharp, pens scribbling notes that could end your career. Evening arrives, but the work doesn't stop. Under the hot lights, the set feels like a sauna. Sweat dripping down your back. Makeup melting into streaks. Wardrobe sticking uncomfortably to your skin. The powder keeps you upright, but it can't stop the exhaustion gnawing at your bones. Every line feels heavier. Every movement slower. Every laugh more forced. You stumble, curse, storm off set, slam the trailer door, and collapse onto the couch. The tray is waiting, another line already cut. You lean down, inhale, feel the burn, and stand again, ready to repeat the cycle. Outside, the circus continues. Lights blaze, cameras roll, voices shout, footsteps pound across the soundstage. The machine grinds on, devouring money, energy, sanity. You're just another cog, dressed in sequins, painted with powder, fed champagne instead of water. The circus won't stop for you. It won't stop for anyone. It will keep rolling until the final scene is shot, the last paycheck delivered, the last headline written. And by then, you'll be too hollow to even remember what it was supposed to be about. The workday doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling. In Hollywood, the real shift begins when the sun goes down and the neon signs flicker to life. It doesn't matter if you've spent the entire day sweating under hot lights, stumbling through takes, or nodding politely through a lunch meeting where no one ate. Nightfall means it's time to move again, to put the armour back on, to show your face in the clubs that make or break reputations. In the 80s, skipping a night out is career suicide. If you're not seen, you don't exist. The drive down Sunset Boulevard is its own spectacle. Billboards scream from every corner. Upcoming films, fashion ads, perfume campaigns dripping with sexual innuendo. Neon signs glow in pinks and greens, buzzing faintly against the dark sky. The sidewalks pulse with bodies in sequins, leather, lace. Paparazzi stalk the curbs like predators, their cameras flashing as cars slow in front of the hottest clubs. Limousines, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, battered convertibles held together by duct tape. They all pull up to the same velvet ropes. Fame erases class, at least for a moment. Your car rolls to a stop in front of one of the biggest spots of the era, the kind of place where the line stretches around the block, but somehow evaporates when you arrive. The doorman grins, waves you forward, unhooks the velvet rope like he's parting the Red Sea. The crowd outside groans, mutters, glares. They've been waiting for hours, and you waltz past without a glance. That's the hierarchy. They want to be you. They hate you. They'd kill for the same treatment, and you barely notice them anymore. Inside, the sound hits first, bass heavy enough to rattle your bones, drum machines pounding like a heartbeat you can't escape. Synthesizers scream over it, voices distorted, lyrics lost in the noise. The floor is sticky with spilled liquor, grinding under your shoes as you move. The air is a toxic cloud of cigarette smoke, hairspray, perfume, and sweat. The lights strobe, flashing pink, blue, green, plunging the room into chaos with every flicker. It feels less like a nightclub, and more like a war zone with glitter grenades. Bodies move everywhere. Sequined dresses cling to damp skin. Leather jackets squeak under arms raised high. Neon leg warmers flash in the darkness. Everyone is dancing, grinding, sweating, shouting into each other's ears because the music drowns out words. Drinks slosh from glasses, dripping down onto sequins, into hair, onto the floor. The smell of alcohol, powder, and desperation is thick enough to chew. Every person here is playing the same game. Be seen, be photographed, be remembered tomorrow morning in the gossip columns. You're pulled to a table in the back, one reserved just for your kind. A semicircle of plush velvet couches, low glass tables littered with bottles of champagne, trays of powder, stacks of cigarettes. The booth is already full of familiar faces. Actors, models, musicians, producers, all of them glistening with sweat, pupils blown wide, smiles too wide to be real. They cheer when you arrive, glasses raised, arms outstretched. You slide in, light another cigarette, and lean over the table for the real fuel of the night. The powder hits fast, one line, then another, then another. The burn feels like fire in your sinuses, but the rush follows instantly. Your heart leaps, your jaw clenches, your body hums with borrowed electricity. You grab a champagne flute, gulp half of it down, and let the bubbles blur the edges of reality. Someone pours more. Someone else chops another line. Someone screams about how much they love this song, even though nobody can hear the lyrics. The table is chaos, but it's controlled chaos, the kind that feels normal here. The dance floor calls eventually. You stumble out, weaving through bodies, cigarette still in hand, drink sloshing dangerously. The lights hit your sequins, blinding flashes bouncing across the room. People cheer when they see you, arms reaching, hands grabbing, cameras flashing. You're not just another dancer here, you're the show. Every movement is a performance. Every step a photo opportunity. You grind, you spin, you laugh too loudly, you throw your arms around strangers you won't remember tomorrow. The powder keeps you moving long after your body wants to quit. But beneath the neon glow, the glamour peels away fast. Sweat pours down your face, stinging your eyes, soaking your clothes. Your skin itches under the layers of hairspray and cologne. Your throat is raw from shouting, your lungs heavy with smoke. Your stomach growls again, empty, acidic, but you drown it with more champagne. The high wavers, the edges sharpen, paranoia creeps in. Is someone watching? Is someone laughing? Is that camera flash catching the blood under your nose, the twitch in your jaw, the wobble in your step? You laugh louder, dance harder, pretend it isn't happening. In the corners the desperation is clearer. Models slump against the walls, mascara streaked, eyes vacant. Actors huddle in bathrooms, doors locked, razor blades clattering against sinks. Musicians shout at each other over nothing, glasses shattering, fists flying. Security drags out bodies too wasted to stand, dumps them on the curb like trash. Outside, the line still waits, desperate to get in, desperate to become part of the rot inside. You return to the table, collapse onto the velvet, and light another cigarette with shaking hands. Someone hands you a pill, says it'll smooth the come down, says it'll balance the rush. You swallow without asking what it is. Another tray of powder arrives. Another bottle of champagne is popped. Another round of laughter rings out too loud. The night blurs into flashes. Strobe lights, glass shattering, powder burning, sweat dripping. Time doesn't exist here. Only the cycle. By the time you stumble out of the club, the sky's already lightening. The crowd outside is thinner, the paparazzi still waiting, cameras flashing, questions shouted. Your sunglasses hide bloodshot eyes. Your blazer reeks of smoke and sweat. Your shoes stick to the pavement from spilled liquor. You wave, grin, pose for photos you won't remember being taken. The car door slams, the city blurs again, and your stomach twists with nausea that has nothing to do with food. The nightclubs are supposed to be glamorous, places where legends are born and careers are made. The truth is uglier. They're sweatboxes of desperation, arenas where everyone is fighting to stay visible, to stay relevant, to stay awake. Glitter sticks to your skin like regret. Smoke clings to your lungs. Powder clogs your sinuses. You tell yourself it's fun, that it's freedom, that it's living. But the truth is simpler. It's survival. Another night survived. Another morning waiting to be endured. The nightclubs never really end. They just spit you back onto the sidewalk, eyes squinting against the early morning sun, shoes sticking to pavement stained with vomit and beer, heart pounding from the powder that still sizzles in your bloodstream. You're not free when you step outside. The circus just changes shape. The music fades, but the shouting begins. A different kind of spotlight slams down on you, brighter and colder than anything inside. Cameras. Always cameras. They're already there, waiting like vultures perched on telephone poles. A paparazzi with beaten up cars, and telephoto lenses that can capture your pause from half a block away. They've been parked outside all night, engines idling, windows cracked just enough to breathe through cigarette smoke. The moment you stumble out the door, they swarm. The shouts are immediate, sharp, invasive. Who are you with tonight? Are you drunk? What happened inside? Flashes blind you. Strobe lights of a different kind, burning white spots into your vision. You try to shield your face, but the sunglasses don't hide the redness in your eyes, the sweat slicking your skin, the smudged makeup clinging to your jawline. They get closer, too close, lenses practically shoved into your nostrils, microphones thrust toward your lips. You smile anyway, because snarling makes the photo worse. You wave, blow a kiss, toss out a joke you don't remember a second later. Anything to control the narrative. Anything to pretend this is glamorous and not humiliating. But the humiliation is the point. They're not here to capture you looking radiant under neon. They're here for the stumble, the slur, the second your jaw tightens, or your nose bleeds, or your knees buckle. They'll sell it to the tabloids, who will slap it on the front page with headlines dripping in sarcasm. Star's wild night out. Hollywood darling spirals again. Is this the beginning of the end? The truth won't matter. The angle is what sells. You slide into the back of the car, slam the door, but the flashes keep going, bouncing off the tinted windows, filling the cabin with bursts of light. The driver pulls away, but they follow. Beat-up sedans with cracked windshields, motorcycles weaving through traffic, vans packed with shouting men clinging to cameras like rifles. They chase you down Sunset, run red lights, cut across lanes, their engines growling. You can't shake them. No one can. They'll follow you to the gas station, to the grocery store, to the gates of your mansion. Sometimes they wait outside your house all night, their lenses trained on your windows, snapping photos of shadows moving across your walls, of strangers slipping in or out. They know when you order takeout, when the dealer's car pulls into the driveway, when you stagger outside at 3 a.m. in nothing but underwear and a cigarette. They catch everything. And if they don't, they make it up. The tabloids are even worse. Every photo becomes a story. Every rumour becomes a headline. They dissect your weight, your skin, your teeth, your clothes. They speculate about lovers, addictions, breakdowns. They don't care if it's true. Truth doesn't sell, shame does. They print lies with glossy covers, distribute them to every supermarket checkout line in the country. Housewives flip through them while buying groceries, clucking their tongues, shaking their heads. Teenagers cut out the photos and pin them to walls. You become public property, dissected and mocked by strangers who wouldn't last a single hour in your shoes. And then there are the stalkers. The ones who don't stop at photographs. The ones who climb fences, break into houses, slip past security guards. They send letters, hundreds of them, scrawled in shaky handwriting, stained with coffee rings or worse. Some are love letters, dripping with obsession, fantasies about marriage, children, forever. Others are violent, threats scrawled in capital letters, promises of what they will do if you don't respond. They call your house at 3 a.m, their breath heavy on the line. They wait outside the studio, pretending to be crew members, watching your every move. Security escorts them out, but they always return. You laugh about it at parties, joke about your fan club, pretend it's flattering, but alone in the mansion, blinds drawn tight, you hear every creak in the walls, every rustle outside, and wonder if someone's out there with a knife. You double-check the locks, then forget if you checked them at all. You pour another drink, snort another line, light another cigarette, anything to silence the paranoia. But the paranoia is real. The threats are real. The letters are real. And the cameras are always waiting to capture the moment when it all goes wrong. The handlers tell you to ignore it. The agent says it's part of the job. The manager says it's proof you're famous enough to matter. The publicist says it's good publicity, that all press is good press. You want to believe them, but deep down you know it's hollow. Every headline chips away at you. Every flash blinds you. Every letter reminds you that you don't belong to yourself anymore. You belong to the crowd, to the cameras, to the gossip rags stacked on newsstands. You remember when it felt good, when the cameras meant success, when the flashes felt like applause. Back when you were still fresh-faced, still healthy, still thrilled to be noticed. Back then, the tabloids called you rising, promising, magnetic. The stalkers hadn't appeared yet. The paparazzi weren't camping outside your house. The headlines were flattering. It felt like validation, like proof that the dream was real. But the dream curdled fast. Now the same cameras feel like vultures, circling, waiting for you to collapse. You can't stop them. Laws don't matter here. Restraining orders are jokes. Privacy is a fantasy. You can build walls around your mansion, hire guards, change phone numbers, but they'll always find you. The vultures never leave. They just circle wider, waiting for the next slip, the next scandal, the next overdose. You know it, they know it, and the tabloids can't wait to print it. So you spray another cloud of cologne, adjust your sunglasses, flash another fake smile, and pretend it doesn't bother you. Pretend the flashes don't burn, the headlines don't sting, the stalkers don't terrify you. Pretend you're still in control. Pretend this is still glamorous. Pretend the circus hasn't already consumed you. And when the cameras finally lower, when the tabloids finally move on to the next victim, you'll be nothing but another headline. Forgotten, mocked, replaced. Dating in this world isn't about romance. It's not candlelit dinners, long walks, or quiet intimacy. It's about survival, publicity, and distraction. Everyone is trading something. Fame, drugs, sex, influence. You don't go on dates because you like someone. You go because your publicist says it'll look good in People magazine, because the studio wants the headlines, because the club promoters want two famous faces walking through their doors together. Dating is just another performance, one more role you didn't audition for but can't stop playing. The introductions are always the same: a party, a nightclub, a restaurant where nobody eats. Someone leans over, shouts a name into your ear over the music, shoves a drink into your hand, nudges you toward a body in sequins or leather. You smile, shake hands, say something witty you won't remember tomorrow. Within minutes, you're pressed together on a couch, champagne spilling onto your legs, powder already being offered on a mirrored compact. This is foreplay in the 80s. A line, a laugh, a kiss that tastes like cigarettes and vodka. The relationships move at warp speed. You meet someone at midnight, and by dawn you're stumbling out of a club together, sunglasses already on, cameras flashing, tabloids ready to splash the photos across their covers. By the end of the week, you're living in their mansion, closets full of clothes intermingled, assistants whispering about marriage. By the end of the month, it's already crumbling. Screaming matches, broken glass, accusations shouted through walls. Nobody takes it slow. There's no time for slow. Everyone's running on powder and paranoia, and the clock ticks faster when your body is burning out by 30. The scandals follow immediately. One kiss in the wrong club, one photo with the wrong co-star, one rumour whispered by a jealous rival, and the tabloids erupt. Secret affair. Shocking betrayal. Love triangle tears Hollywood apart. None of it has to be true. Sometimes you don't even remember if it was. Too much champagne, too many pills, too many strangers in your bed. You wake up to headlines you don't recognise, faces you don't recall, names you don't remember agreeing to date. But the magazines don't care. Once it's printed, it's reality. The sex itself is mechanical, frantic, fueled by chemicals and desperation. Bodies crash together in bathrooms, in limousines, in dressing rooms that reek of cologne and powder. Nobody's really present. The powder numbs, the booze dulls, the pills slow everything down until it feels like watching yourself from outside your body. The performances are sloppy, desperate, forgettable. Sometimes you don't even finish. Sometimes you pass out halfway through. Sometimes you wake up alone, sheet reeking of sweat and smoke, a stranger's earrings left behind on the nightstand. And then there's the danger. No one talks about it openly, not at first, but in the shadows of every nightclub, in the bathrooms of every set, in the whispers between assistants, the word spreads: disease. The 80s are a plague decade, and Hollywood is a petri dish. Rumours swirl about who has what, who's hiding test results, who collapsed after a party and never came back. Still, nobody stops. Condoms are laughed at, dismissed as unsexy. Everyone believes they're untouchable until the hospital says otherwise. Syphilis, gonorrhea, herpes. They're everywhere, treated like inconveniences, punchlines in late-night conversations. Another prescription, another round of antibiotics, another cover story to keep it out of the papers. But the bigger shadow looms, whispered in corners, feared but never acknowledged on record. The new virus spreading fast, killing faster, decimating whole circles of friends. The tabloids call it scandal. The doctors call it a crisis. The stars call it someone else's problem until their own bodies start wasting away. The gossip columns thrive on it. Every headline is a wink, every rumour a dagger. They speculate about who's infected, who's hiding sores under makeup, who's lost weight too quickly to be healthy. They print lists of suspected names, tear apart careers, fuel paranoia. Friends stop trusting each other. Lovers stop calling. Parties thin out with whispers of contagion. And still, every night, the clubs are full, the powder is cut, the champagne flows, and bodies collide in dark corners as if nothing is wrong. Your own relationships crumble the same way. One week, you're photographed with a model on your arm. The next week, you're screaming at each other in the driveway, while paparazzi lenses capture every tear. 1 month, you're rumoured to be engaged to a co-star. The next month, you're smashing bottles in their kitchen while neighbours call the cops. It's all spectacle, all performance, all fodder for tabloids. None of it feels real, not even in the moments when it should. And the cycle repeats. Break up, make up, new face, new scandal, new headline. Your publicist tells you to lean into it, to let the rumours swirl, to let the chaos keep your name in print. Better to be infamous than forgotten, she says, while drafting another statement denying the latest affair. You nod, sip champagne, snort another line, and let the carousel spin. Because the truth is worse than the rumour. The truth is emptiness. Dating here isn't about connection. It's about distraction. It's about filling the silence with bodies, filling the bed with strangers, filling the magazines with headlines. It's about proving you're still desirable, still relevant, still alive. The scandals keep the cameras clicking. The sex keeps the nights from feeling endless. The diseases are just another consequence to be managed, denied, hidden under makeup and cologne. Nobody loves anyone here. Not really. Everyone just clings to each other like lifeboats, knowing the ship is already sinking. And when it does sink, when the tabloids move on to the next scandal, when the lovers stop calling, when the bodies stop showing up in your bed, you're left alone in the mansion with the cologne, the powder, and the silence. You tell yourself it's fine. You tell yourself it's glamorous. You tell yourself it's the life everyone wants. But deep down, you know it's just another mask, another role, another performance in a city where the only real romance is between you and your addictions. The idea of a party in Hollywood during the 80s is different from what the word means anywhere else. In normal life, a party is something you go to for a few hours, laugh, drink, maybe dance, then head home when you've had enough. Here, a party is not an event. It's a current. It flows endlessly, drifting from house to house, spilling out of clubs and into hotel suites, out of hotel suites and into limousines, out of limousines and into the backyards of sprawling mansions in the hills. The lights never turn off. The music never dies down. The drinks never stop pouring. And the powder never stops appearing in neat little lines, no matter what time the clock says. It usually begins the same way. You leave a set, or a meeting, or a nightclub, and instead of going home, someone leans over and whispers about the real party. The club is just the appetizer. The real thing is happening somewhere else, behind iron gates, up winding roads, past security guards with clipboards full of names. You pile into a car that reeks of cologne and smoke, already half drunk, already wired, already halfway gone. By the time you arrive, the night is blurred into something indistinct, but the energy is unmistakable. The house glows like a beacon in the dark. multi-level glass walls, infinity pools reflecting neon lights. Music throbs from inside, spilling out across the hillside. Cars line the driveway, Porsches, Ferraris, limos idling with doors flung open, the drivers smoking in silence. The gates swing wide for you because of course they do. Fame is your invitation. Nobody checks your name, nobody ever does. Inside, the air is a furnace. Cigarette smoke curls into chandeliers, perfume hangs thick enough to taste, sweat drips from bodies grinding against each other on marble floors. The rooms are packed wall to wall, people shouting over the music, laughing too loudly, drinking too heavily. Every surface is covered in bottles, glasses, trays of powder. Coffee tables, bathroom counters, even the piano in the corner. All of them are just staging grounds for the same ritual. You lean over, sniff, wipe your nose, and smile like it's the most natural thing in the world. The faces blur together. Some are famous, some are not, but in the dark under the strobe lights, it doesn't matter. Everyone looks the same after a few lines. Eyes glassy, jaws tight, skin glowing with sweat. Actors, models, producers, hangers-on, all interchangeable, all feeding off each other's energy. Conversations start mid-sentence, spiral into laughter, collapse into arguments, and vanish as quickly as they began. Nobody remembers what was said. Nobody cares. The point isn't connection. The point is momentum. Keep moving, keep laughing, keep snorting, keep drinking. The rooms are a maze. In the kitchen, a blender whirs non-stop, mixing vodka with orange juice that nobody drinks. In the bathroom, 5 people are crowded around the sink, chopping powder with hotel keycards, snorting off the counter, ignoring the line of people pounding on the door. In the bedrooms, strangers writhe under silk sheets, doors half closed, music still pounding through the walls. By the pool, bodies float on inflatable rafts, glasses in hand, glitter clinging to their skin. The water is cloudy, littered with cigarette butts, condoms and empty bottles. Nobody notices. Nobody cares. The powder is everywhere. On silver trays, carried by waiters dressed like it's a catering event. On mirrors, propped against the wall. On record sleeves, pulled straight from the stereo. It never runs out. Someone always has more. Dealers move through the rooms like priests at a ritual, nodding, handing out baggies, exchanging cash or favours or promises. The lines blur between guest and supplier, between friend and user. Everyone's here for the same thing. The music never stops. A DJ in the corner spins records, sweat dripping from his forehead, headphones clamped over his ears. The bass rattles the walls, the windows, your chest. It's too loud to think, which is the point. Thinking is the enemy. The sound drowns it all out. The hunger, the nausea, the paranoia creeping in at the edges. You dance because standing still feels impossible. Because moving keeps the illusion alive. Because if you stop, you might notice how rotten it all smells. And the smell is everywhere. Sweat, smoke, perfume, spilled liquor, chlorine, cologne. It clings to your clothes, your hair, your skin. By the time you stumble out into the night air, you reek of it. The stench becomes your perfume, the calling card of the endless party. You shower, spray more cologne, change clothes, but it never really leaves. It seeps into your pores, a permanent reminder that you live inside this machine. As the night drags on, the crowd thins, but the party doesn't end. It just relocates. Someone whispers about another house, another mansion, another real party happening just a few miles away. The herd moves, piling into cars, limos, taxis. Engines roar, tyres squeal, headlights cut through the dark. You follow because what else is there to do? Going home means silence. Silence means thought. Thought means collapse. Better to keep moving, keep chasing, keep pretending the night will never end. At the next house, the scene repeats. Different walls, different pool, different faces, but the same smoke, the same powder, the same laughter. The party never ends. It just changes addresses. You lose track of time. The clock on the wall says 3 a.m, then 5 a.m, then 8 a.m. But the music is still pounding, the drink still flowing, the powder still cut into neat lines. The sun rises outside, but the curtains stay drawn, the lights stay dim, the ritual continues. Somewhere in the haze, scandals are born. Arguments flare into fistfights, broken glass scattering across marble floors. Lovers scream at each other. Accusations of betrayal shouted loud enough for the neighbours to hear. Someone collapses in the bathroom. Too much powder. Too many pills. Dragged out by friends who swear it's just exhaustion. The tabloids will hear about it tomorrow. Someone will leak a story. Someone always does. You keep moving, room to room, house to house, line to line. Your body aches, your skin tingles, your heart races. You tell yourself you're having fun. You laugh too loudly, smile too widely, pose for photos you won't remember. The truth gnaws at you, but the music is too loud to let it in. So you lean over the table again, inhale, wipe your nose, and keep going. By the time the sun is high in the sky, the party still hasn't stopped. People are passed out on couches, bodies draped over each other like discarded clothes. The pool is littered with floating debris, the lawn with broken bottles and cigarette packs. The DJ is asleep at his station, record skipping endlessly. And yet someone whispers again, another house, another mansion, another round. The caravan forms, engines roar, and the cycle continues. You could leave. You could go home, shut the door, draw the curtains, sleep. But you don't. You can't. Because the silence terrifies you more than the noise. The silence means facing yourself, and you're not ready for that. Not yet. So you climb back into the car, light another cigarette, and follow the herd to the next address. Another party, another night that never ends. The parties don't always end with laughter and music. Sometimes they end with sirens. You don't talk about it in the moment, of course. You pretend it's just another wild night. Someone who had one too many. Someone who'll be fine in the morning. But the truth is impossible to ignore. In this city, in this decade, overdose isn't an accident. It's an inevitability. Everyone's on the same ride, and sooner or later, someone falls off. It happens quietly at first. A body slumped in a corner, head tilted at an odd angle, cigarette still burning between fingers. Friends laugh, nudge them, assume they've passed out. Nobody panics immediately. Passing out is normal here. It's practically a hobby. But then the breathing gets shallow, the skin goes pale, the lips tint blue. Someone leans closer, shakes harder, realises this isn't the usual blackout. This is different. This is worse. The room reacts in waves. A few people keep dancing, ignoring it. They don't want the vibe ruined. Others crowd in, whispering frantically, deciding who should call. Nobody wants to be the one to dial. An ambulance means cops. Cops mean headlines. Headlines mean careers crumbling. So the denial begins. They're fine. Just tired. Just need air. They drag the body to a couch, fan the face with a magazine, splash water over them. Minutes pass. Nothing changes. Someone finally breaks, pulls out phone, dials. The sirens follow. You've seen it more than once. The flashing red and blue lights bouncing off the glass walls of a mansion, cutting through cigarette smoke and perfume. Paramedics hauling stretchers up driveways, pushing past velvet ropes, navigating through living rooms littered with bottles and ashtrays and mirrors are dusted white. They move fast, professional, while everyone else freezes. The music doesn't even stop. It just fades into the background, bass thumping under the frantic voices, the hiss of oxygen tanks, the clatter of medical bags hitting the floor. The overdosed body is strapped down, needles jabbed into veins, masks pressed over faces. Sometimes they come back, gasping, coughing, eyes rolling wildly. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're hauled out under a sheet, paparazzi cameras flashing as the stretcher rolls past. And every time, denial washes over the crowd like cologne sprayed too thick. Nobody says overdose, nobody says death. They say exhaustion, reaction, a bad mix. The lies are instant, automatic. If it happens in your house, the fear doubles. Suddenly, it's your name that will be tied to the headline. Your carpet with vomit stains. Your bathroom where they collapsed. Your driveway with ambulance lights painting the walls. Your publicist scrambles, already drafting statements about how you acted heroically by calling for help. How you're deeply saddened, but focused on your work. The manager whispers about rehab, not for you, but for the friend who didn't make it. The agent mutters about optics, about how to spin the story so your brand isn't tarnished. The body isn't even cold before the lies are prepared. The denial stretches further than words. You tell yourself it won't happen to you, that your body can handle it, that you know your limits, that you'll never push that far. You watched your friend convulse on the floor, eyes rolling back, foam bubbling at the lips, and you still think you're different. You lean over the same table, cut another line, and sniff. You gulp champagne, swallow pills, laugh too loudly at the next joke, because the alternative is admitting that the same fate is waiting for you. And nobody here admits anything. The ambulances become part of the scenery. Sirens echo through the hills at night, not for fires, not for robberies, but for overdoses. The neighbours stop asking. They know. Everyone knows. Celebrities carried out on stretchers, assistants crying on the lawn, paparazzi lenses capturing every angle. The photos run in the morning, splashed across tabloids. Star hospitalised after exhaustion. Actor collapses during wild night. The word overdose is scrubbed clean, buried under euphemisms. You read the stories while cutting another line, shaking your head, muttering about how tragic it is. But deep down, you don't stop. Sometimes the overdoses happen on set. An actor collapses mid-scene, scripts fluttering from their hands, cameras catching the whole fall. The crew freezes, then rushes in. Medics are called. Shooting halts for hours, sometimes days. The studio denies it immediately. Heat exhaustion, food poisoning, anemia, anything but the truth. The tabloids lap it up, whispering names, hinting at scandals, never printing the real story. And the next week, everyone is back on set, pretending nothing happened, pretending the circus hasn't swallowed another one of its performers. The denial isn't just public, it's personal. You deny it to yourself every morning, staring into the bathroom mirror with bloodshot eyes, raw nostrils, shaking hands. You tell yourself you're fine, that the burn in your chest isn't serious, that the pounding in your skull is just a hangover, that the memory gaps aren't a warning sign. You watch your friends disappear one by one, funerals dressed up as red carpet events, caskets lowered while cameras flash, and you still think you're immune. that your body is stronger, your will sharper, your luck better. But luck runs out. You know it. Everyone knows it. The only question is when. The parties keep going, the powder keeps flowing, the bottles keep popping, and the ambulances keep coming. They always come. The ambulances eventually lead somewhere, though never quite to the truth. In Hollywood, overdose doesn't just mean hospitals, it means rehab. That word gets thrown around like a cure-all, a magic eraser for sins. You don't go to rehab to get better. You go to rehab to get photographed walking in, photographed walking out, and to give your publicist something to tell the magazines when they ask why you looked like a corpse on stage last week. Rehab is less about sobriety and more about optics, another performance in a town where every waking moment is theatre. The first time you're sent, you resist. You tell the handlers you don't need it, that you're fine, that the collapse at the club was just dehydration. They nod, smile, and shove you into a car anyway. The drive feels humiliating. Paparazzi already camped outside the gates of the facility, snapping photos as you shuffle inside with sunglasses on, head bowed, pretending you're ashamed. The flashes follow you all the way up the steps, the headlines already writing themselves. Brave star seeks help. Hollywood darling chooses recovery. It's all a lie. You didn't choose anything. You were pushed in to save what's left of your career. Inside, the walls are beige. The air smells faintly of disinfectant and stale coffee. The staff speak in gentle tones, handing you pamphlets about healing and growth, about rediscovering yourself. You nod, pretend to read, but your head is pounding, your skin is crawling, your body already craving the chemical drip it's been denied. The other patients look just like you. Actors, musicians, producers, all pacing hallways, sweating, twitching, muttering. The facility is less a hospital and more a holding pen for broken toys the studios hope can be glued back together. The days follow a routine. Group therapy in the morning, where you sit in a circle of folding chairs and listen to strangers confess about demons you already know too well. They talk about childhood trauma, failed marriages, near-death experiences. You nod along, share just enough to look engaged, never enough to reveal anything real. Honesty isn't part of your vocabulary anymore. The powder scrubbed it clean years ago. Afternoons mean chores, exercises, lectures about responsibility. You half listen, half doze, eyes glazed, skin prickling with withdrawal. Nights are the worst. The silence presses down on you. No music, no flashing lights, no powder to drown the thoughts. You lie awake in a stiff bed, sweating through sheets, staring at the ceiling. Every creak sounds like a threat, every shadow a stalker, every thought a blade slicing deeper. You tell yourself you'll leave tomorrow. You tell yourself you don't belong here. You tell yourself you're stronger than the others. It all lies. The stay usually lasts a month, sometimes less. Long enough for the magazines to print stories about your bravery. Long enough for your publicist to book an exclusive interview where you talk about your journey. Long enough for the studio to tell investors you're clean and ready to work again. When the cameras are there, you put on the face. Smiling, glowing, clutching a bottle of water instead of champagne, talking about how grateful you are for the second chance. The world applauds. Fans send letters of support. The machine pats itself on the back for saving another lost soul. But the moment you're out, the relapse begins. The first drink is poured before you even get home. The first line is cut within hours. The handlers pretend not to notice, or worse, they provide it themselves. They need you functional enough to show up on set, to smile at premieres, to fill theatres. If that means a little powder between takes, so be it. Sobriety isn't profitable. Relapse is inevitable. And everyone knows it. The cycle repeats endlessly. Collapse, rehab, relapse, repeat. Each day shorter than the last, each return less convincing. The tabloids grow more cynical, the headlines sharper. Star back in rehab after setback. Troubled actor seeks help again. Is it too late for a career in freefall? The magazines stop using words like brave and start using words like tragic. Your publicist keeps drafting statements. Your manager keeps begging studios to give you another chance. Your agent keeps lying about how committed you are. The hypocrisy is suffocating. Hollywood sells rehab like redemption, but nobody actually believes it. The parties are still full, the club's still buzzing, the powder still flowing. The same people who pat you on the back for getting clean are the ones offering you a bump in the bathroom at the premiere. Directors joke about how many days you'll last before cracking. Producers place bets on whether you'll finish the shoot. Even your so-called friends laugh about it behind your back. Rehab is a performance, and everyone knows it, but you keep playing the role because it's the only script left. The worst part is the emptiness afterward. The brief weeks of supposed sobriety leave you face to face with yourself, raw, unfiltered, unarmoured. The silence is unbearable. No music, no lights, no fog of chemicals to blur the edges. You see the cracks, the rot, the hollow centre. You hate it. You hate yourself. So you run back to the only comfort you've ever had. The bottle, the line, the pill. The cycle embraces you like an old friend, and you sigh with relief even as it strangles you. Hollywood claps when you enter rehab, claps when you leave, claps when you relapse, claps at your funeral. The hypocrisy is endless. Everyone talks about support, about caring, about family, but nobody cares. Not really. They care about the paycheck, the headline, the photo op. They care about keeping the machine running, not the bodies it chews up. Rehab is just another cog in the system, another stage in the act, another lie dressed as salvation. And you play along, because what else is there to do? Admit the truth? Quit the machine? Walk away from the cameras, the money, the illusion of relevance? You can't. None of you can. So you keep staggering through the cycle, clapping along with the rest, pretending the hypocrisy doesn't suffocate you. Until the next collapse, the next ambulance, the next beige-walled facility that smells of disinfectant and denial. And after that, another relapse. Always another relapse. In Hollywood, the body is never yours. It belongs to the cameras, to the fans, to the producers who write checks, to the handlers who sell your face like it's a brand of detergent. You can look in the mirror and think you see yourself, but that's not true anymore. What you see is the product. And when the product starts to crack, wrinkle, sag, or fade, there's only one solution. The knives, the needles, the scalpel carving you back into something marketable. It doesn't start all at once. At first it's just comments, the agent calling after a meeting, saying you looked tired, the producer joking about how the camera adds 10 years, the makeup artist patting your cheek with powder and muttering about texture. You hear it everywhere, a whisper disguised as concern. You tell yourself it's nothing. You're still young. You're still beautiful. You're still the one they scream for outside clubs. But the camera doesn't lie, and neither do the tabloids. The magazines are merciless. Side-by-side spreads of your face then and now. Circles drawn around crow's feet. Arrows pointing to faint lines across your forehead. What happened to Hollywood's golden boy? Has the darling of the screen lost her glow? The gossip columns aren't interested in your performance, in the films you've made, in the work you've done. They're obsessed with pores, with hairlines, with how tight your jawline still looks under fluorescent lights. Every imperfection is magnified until it feels like a scar. You try to fight it the normal way first. More sleep, more water, less powder. It lasts 2 days. Then you're back in the club, sweating under neon lights, pouring champagne down your throat, carving lines on the bathroom counter. The exhaustion shows up immediately, swelling under your eyes, sagging across your cheeks. Makeup can only hide so much. The camera sees everything. So the next step is lotions, creams, miracle serums handed to you in glossy bottles by assistants who swear it will change everything. You smear them on night after night until your bathroom smells like a perfume counter. Nothing changes. That's when the handlers suggest help. Not the kind of help that involves honesty or sobriety or change. No, the kind of help that comes with scalpels and syringes. A little Botox, they say. Just a touch. No one will even notice. It'll just smooth things out, keep you fresh. You tell yourself it's harmless. You sit in a pristine white office, the doctor smiling like a salesman, his hands gloved, the needle glinting under the light. The sting is quick, the numbness follows, and for a few weeks the lines are gone. The magazines ease up. The fans cheer louder. The handlers grin. You look better. But it doesn't stop there. It never does. Once you start, every line looks suspicious. Every wrinkle feels like failure. You notice sagging skin at the corners of your eyes. The doctor suggests a lift, just a small one. You flinch at the thought, but then the headlines return. Mocking, cruel. You cave. The surgery is brutal. You wake with stitches, bruises, swelling that lasts for weeks. You hide in your mansion, curtains drawn, mirrors covered. The pain is sharp, throbbing, endless. But when it heals, you look smoother, tighter, younger. The cameras love it. The magazines print glowing photos. The handlers call it a success. And yet the reflection is wrong. The face in the mirror doesn't look like yours anymore. The smile is stiffer, the eyes wider, the skin stretched taut. You convince yourself it's just adjustment, that you'll get used to it. But the unease gnaws at you. You can't stop staring. Can't stop comparing to old photos. Can't stop wondering who that person is. Still, you keep going. Lip injections, chin sculpting, nose refinements, teeth whitening until they glow like headlights. Each tweak is tiny, subtle, sold as an improvement. But together, they remake you into something unrecognisable. The hypocrisy drips from every corner. Interviewers ask about your secret to staying young, and you laugh, claiming it's clean living and plenty of sleep. The audience claps, fans swoon, the magazines run tips about your routine. Meanwhile, you're icing your face at home, popping painkillers, dabbing at fresh bruises under layers of concealer. The industry sells lies, and you're both the product and the liar. And it's not just you. Everywhere you turn, faces look off. Actors with waxy skin. Musicians with lips swollen like balloons. Producers with hairlines drawn on with surgical precision. You recognise the look. The glassy, too tight mask. The frozen expressions that never quite match the words. Nobody acknowledges it. You all compliment each other anyway. You look amazing. So young. So fresh. It's all code for, I know what you did, and I'm doing it too. The cycle is relentless. Every year brings new procedures, new tricks, new demands. The studio wants you younger. The fans want you flawless. The tabloids want you slipping so they can tear you apart. You can't win. If you age naturally, they call you washed up. If you cut and stitch yourself back together, they call you fake. Either way, the headlines bite, and you keep feeding them. Because what else can you do? Disappear? Fade away? The only thing worse than ridicule in this town is being forgotten. So you keep going. More needles, more scalpels, more bruises hidden under designer sunglasses. You smile for the cameras even when your cheeks ache from the injections. You wave to the fans even when your skin feels numb and alien. You flirt with interviewers even when your lips barely move the way they used to. The business of image is a trap, and you're shackled to it, chained to the need to stay young forever in a city that devours youth like candy. And deep down, you know how it ends. The procedures pile up until your face looks like wax, until your eyes don't close right, until your smile is a rictus grin stretched too far. The tabloids mock you for it, the fans whisper. The industry quietly moves on to the next fresh face. You tried to cheat time, and time still won. All you're left with is scars under the makeup, a stranger's reflection in the mirror, and the hollow knowledge that you sold yourself piece by piece just to stay in the frame a little longer. And tomorrow you'll sit in another chair, under another bright light, with another gloved hand holding another needle, and you'll tell yourself it's the last time. It never is. Fame sounds beautiful from the outside. It's the billboard, the magazine cover, the marquee with your name in lights. It's fans screaming when you walk into a room, photographers fighting each other for a shot, strangers whispering your name like it means something divine. From a distance, it looks like love. It looks like immortality. It looks like the dream every small-town kid growing up in the 80s, glued to a TV screen, imagined they wanted. But inside, once you're living it, fame doesn't feel like love. It feels like surveillance. It feels like obligation. It feels like being caged under a spotlight that never turns off, while the room around you stays empty. And everywhere you go, eyes follow. The grocery store, the gas station, the sidewalk outside your own front gate. There are always people watching, waiting for you to stumble, for you to look tired, for you to forget the performance for 1 second so they can tell themselves you're human after all. Cameras follow even when you don't see them. Paparazzi crouch in bushes, lurk in parked cars, lean out of windows. You're never truly alone, but you've never felt lonelier. Because the eyes aren't warm, they're hungry. Fans don't look at you because they love you. They look because they want a piece, an autograph, a smile, a photo. Something to prove they stood in your shadow for 1 second. They'll scream your name with tears in their eyes, clutch your hand like it's sacred, and then turn around and sell the napkin you wiped your mouth on for $50. The illusion of intimacy sells, but intimacy itself never happens. Your so-called friends don't help. The ones who crowd your mansion at 3 a.m, who fill your couches and drain your bottles, who laugh too loud at your jokes and cut lines on your mirrors. They aren't there for you. They're there for the spotlight you drag with you everywhere. Being close to you means being close to the glow. When the glow fades, they'll fade too. You know it because you've watched it happen to others. Stars who once filled the tabloids vanish overnight, their houses suddenly empty, their phones suddenly silent. Fame creates friends the way fast food creates hunger. Quick, greasy, disposable. Even relationships aren't real. Lovers fall into your bed because of your name, not because of who you are. They say they love you, but you can hear the greed in their voices, the hunger in their laughter. They love the lifestyle, the cars, the mansions, the flashing cameras. They love being seen with you more than they love being with you. When the cameras stop clicking, so do they. The handlers don't help either. The agent, the manager, the publicist, they all call you family, but you know the truth. You're an asset, a walking paycheck. They don't care if you're happy, only if you're profitable. They'll cheer when the magazines call you beautiful, and they'll still smile while spinning your overdose into exhaustion. When you're no longer profitable, they won't call. They'll move on to the next product. Fame makes you think you're surrounded, but what you're really surrounded by is leeches. And the spotlight never dims. At night, in bed, curtains drawn, lights off, it still burns. Not the literal lights, but the weight of expectation. The fear that if you sleep too long, if you stay inside too many days, if you stop performing for one moment, the world will forget you. Fame is a treadmill that never slows down. You run faster and faster, your lungs burning, your legs shaking, but the belt keeps moving. If you stumble, it spits you off, and there's no getting back on. The strangest part is that even when you're on stage, when the applause is thunderous, when thousands are screaming your name, you still feel alone. Maybe more alone than ever, because you know they're not screaming for you. They're screaming for the version of you they've invented. The clean, flawless, larger-than-life star who doesn't sweat or shake or bleed. They don't want the real you. They want the mask. And you've worn it so long you don't know where it ends and you begin. The magazines don't help. Every headline is another knife. One week you're glowing, iconic, unforgettable. The next you're washed up, bloated, troubled. Fame is conditional love. It doesn't care how hard you work, how much you sacrifice, how much of your soul you've burned away. It only cares about the next photo, the next performance, the next scandal. The applause isn't for you, it's for the illusion. And applause fades fast. The silence afterward is unbearable. After the interview ends, after the set wraps, after the party finally dies at dawn, you're alone in the mansion again. The mirrors reflect a face you barely recognise. The cologne can't hide the stink of sweat and smoke. The champagne tastes flat. The phone doesn't ring unless someone wants something. The house is silent except for the hum of the refrigerator, the faint buzz of your own heartbeat in your ears. That's when fame feels most cruel. It gives you the loudest nights and the emptiest mornings. You think back sometimes to before it all began, to dingy apartments, to waiting tables, to auditioning in crowded rooms where nobody knew your name. Back then, you dreamed of this. You prayed for this. You thought fame would fix everything, that it would erase loneliness, poverty, insignificance. And it did erase those things, but it replaced them with something worse. Now you're not just lonely, you're lonely with the whole world watching. You're not just insignificant, you're significant in a way that makes you hollow. You're not just broke, you're rich enough to buy anything except peace. And the cruelest part is that you can't walk away. Fame is a drug worse than any powder you've put up your nose. The rush of applause, the glow of cameras, the hum of recognition, it hooks deeper than chemicals ever could. You tell yourself you could quit, disappear, vanish into a quiet life. But you know you won't. You know you can't. The silence would kill you faster than the spotlight. So you stay. You keep smiling when the cameras flash. You keep waving to strangers screaming your name. You keep letting handlers spin lies about your health, your happiness, your relationships. You keep climbing onto stages, sitting in interview chairs, staggering into nightclubs. You keep running on the treadmill because the alternative is falling into the dark. And even though the spotlight burns your skin, blinds your eyes, and leaves you lonelier than ever, you stay in it. Because out of it, you'd be nothing. And nothing terrifies you more. Burnout doesn't arrive in one dramatic moment, no matter what the tabloids write afterward. It doesn't crash into you like a car on Sunset Boulevard. It seeps in. It starts as a quiet ache in your chest when the alarm goes off, a hesitation before climbing out of bed, a muttered curse when you realise there's another meeting, another set, another photo shoot waiting. At first you push through it. Everyone does. You tell yourself it's just fatigue, just one bad week, just a phase. But the phase doesn't end. The ache spreads, the cracks widen, and soon the whole facade you've built begins to crumble in front of everyone who paid to watch. The signs are always there. You miss a call time by an hour, then 2, then 5. The director screams, the producers fume, the crew mutters under their breath. You stumble onto set with sunglasses on, slurring through lines, eyes glassy, body twitching. They do take after take, and you still can't remember the words. The assistants whisper about how something's wrong, as if it's a mystery, as if the champagne in your hand and the powder crusted under your nostrils aren't obvious enough. The machine groans, the budget balloons, the studio panics. But you're still the star, for now. The interviews start to sour too. Once, you charm the hosts with quick wit and flashing smiles. Now you ramble, sweat through your blazer, interrupt yourself mid-sentence to light another cigarette. Your jaw grinds audibly. Your hands shake as you fumble with the water bottle you never actually drink from. The hosts smile politely, but their eyes flicker with pity, or worse, with amusement. The tabloids lap it up. Is Hollywood's brightest star losing it? Troubled actor's bizarre TV appearance. The headlines multiply, each one sharper than the last. The fans notice. At premieres, their cheers sound strained, uncertain. They still reach for your hand, still shove magazines at you for autographs, but the glow has dimmed. Their eyes dart across your face, scanning for cracks, whispering to each other when they see the tremor in your jaw or the sweat beading under your makeup. You smile anyway, pose for the photos, wave at the cameras. But deep down, you feel it. The shift, the beginning of the end. Burnout isn't just mental, it's physical. Your body revolts. Years of powder have carved craters in your sinuses. Champagne has eroded your stomach lining until every sip feels like swallowing fire. Cigarettes have blackened your lungs, leaving you coughing into tissues stained with flecks of red. Pills blur your vision, rattle your heart, numb your limbs. Every morning feels like waking up after being hit by a truck. Every night feels like dying in installments. And still, you push forward. Because the machine demands it. Because stopping means disappearing. The handlers try to keep up the illusion. They drag you into rehab again, parade you out with plastic smiles, book another round of interviews where you talk about feeling stronger than ever. The magazines run puff pieces about your comeback, your resilience. The fans cheer again, briefly. But the relapse comes faster each time. A week, a few days, sometimes only hours before you're back in the club, back at the mirror, back at the bottle. The machine can't keep hiding it forever. The projects suffer. Movies flop. Albums tank. Audiences stop showing up. Studios that once begged for your name now avoid your calls. Producers whisper that you're difficult, that you're unreliable, that you're damaged goods. Scripts stop arriving at your mansion. The roles you're offered shrink. Smaller parts, supporting characters, glorified cameos. You tell yourself you're still a star, but the evidence says otherwise. The spotlight you clung to begins to dim, replaced by fresher faces, younger bodies, hungrier performers who haven't burned themselves hollow yet. The parties shift too. Once you were the centrepiece, the guest everyone wanted to see, the one people bragged about dancing beside. Now you're the cautionary tale slumped on the couch, the one muttering incoherently while powder dribbles down your shirt. People still invite you, but it's less about joy and more about curiosity. They want to watch the collapse up close, to see if tonight's the night you finally break completely. The laughter around you feels crueler, sharper, pointed directly at your expense. The paranoia grows. Every laugh sounds like it's about you. Every whisper feels like a dagger. You catch your reflection in a mirror at 3 a.m, eyes hollow, skin pale, body trembling, and for one moment you don't recognise yourself. You think you see the face of a stranger. Or worse, you think you see the truth. That the star everyone once loved is gone, replaced by this twitching husk, clinging to the spotlight with bloody nails. You smash the mirror, blood mixing with powder on the floor, and stumble back to the couch for another line. Burnout in Hollywood isn't private. It's public sport. The tabloids print your collapse like it's entertainment. Photos of you stumbling out of clubs, makeup smeared, shirt stained, sunglasses askew. Headlines about hospital visits, about lawsuits, about rehab stints. Rumours of violence, of breakdowns, of screaming matches in studios. Every humiliation is broadcast, dissected, sold for pennies on glossy paper. Strangers line up at grocery stores to read about how pathetic you've become. The same people who once screamed your name now laugh at your fall. And yet, through it all, the denial persists. You tell yourself it's temporary, that you'll bounce back, that the next role will be the big one, that the next party will feel good again. The handlers feed the lie. You're still a star. They still love you. It's just a rough patch. You want to believe it. You cling to it. Because admitting the truth means facing the silence that waits when the spotlight finally clicks off. And nothing is scarier than silence. But the machine doesn't care about your fear. It chews you up, spits you out, and moves on. Burnout isn't a tragedy to Hollywood. It's tradition. Careers crash in neon flames all the time. Yours is just one more. There will be another party, another overdose, another rehab stint, another tabloid cover. The names change, the faces change, but the story never does. And when the crash comes, when the last studio closes its doors, when the last fan stops screaming, when the last camera stops flashing, all that's left is the wreckage. The neon still glows on sunset, but it's for someone else now. Someone fresher, hungrier, not yet burned hollow. You sit in your mansion, curtains drawn, mirrors covered, clutching a bottle, staring into the dark. The spotlight has moved on, but the loneliness hasn't. It never does. The thing nobody tells you when you first step into Hollywood is how quickly it all ends. You imagine decades of stardom, a career that stretches into old age, your face carved into history like the stars on the Walk of Fame. But in this city, the machine doesn't care how much you've given. It cares how much you can still give. And by the time you're not even 40, it's already decided you're finished. The first sign is silence. The phone stops ringing, not suddenly but gradually, like a faucet dripping slower and slower until it's dry. One day it's your agent calling about a new script, your manager nagging about an audition, your publicist arranging another staged relationship. The next day it's nothing. No calls, no meetings, no invitations. The world moves on while you sit by the phone, staring at it like it owes you something. You tell yourself it's a phase, that the next project is around the corner. But the corner keeps moving, and the silence keeps growing. The tabloids change their tune too. They stop splashing your face across the front page, stop printing every stumble and overdose with glee. At first it feels like a relief. The paparazzi don't swarm outside your house anymore. The flashes don't blind you when you step into the street. But the quiet is worse. The headlines that once mocked you are now reserved for fresher meat, younger disasters. You're not even worth mocking anymore. You're forgotten. The clubs change as well. You walk up to the velvet rope, expecting the doorman's grin, the crowd parting, the cameras flashing. Instead, the bouncer squints at you, like he's not sure he recognises the face beneath the wrinkles and the too tight skin pulled from surgeries. The crowd doesn't gasp when you walk past. They don't even notice. Inside, the tables you once owned are filled with newer names, hotter bodies, stars on the rise. Your booth has been reassigned. Your champagne replaced by someone else's. You nurse a drink at the bar alone, watching the parade you used to lead, and realise nobody cares. The mansion doesn't feel like home anymore. It feels like a mausoleum. The glass walls that once screamed success now just expose your emptiness to the hillside. The white leather couches are cracked, stained with years of smoke and spilled liquor. The mirrors that once reflected a star now reflect a stranger, skin sagging in odd places, eyes dull, lips twisted by too many injections. The powder-streaked tables are still there, but the crowds that once surrounded them are gone. The parties don't come to you anymore. They don't call, don't knock, don't care. The silence echoes through the halls like a taunt. You try to stay visible. Maybe a commercial, a guest spot on a sitcom, a low-budget indie film that shoots in 3 weeks and pays in peanuts. You tell yourself it's art, that you're going back to your roots, but everyone knows it's desperation. The scripts are thin, the set's cheap, the director's green. Nobody listens when you complain. Nobody caters to your whims. You're not a star here. You're just another actor, clinging to relevance, sweating under hot lights for scraps. Sometimes you try the talk show circuit again. You sit on the couch, smile too wide, tell stories that sound rehearsed and hollow. The host laughs politely, the audience claps out of obligation, and the cameras catch every wrinkle, every tremor, every forced grin. The tabloids don't even bother printing it. Nobody cares about a washed-up star trying too hard to look alive. The money doesn't last either. You thought it would. The paychecks were massive, more zeros than you'd ever seen. But the parties, the houses, the cars, the endless supply of powder and champagne, it drains fast. The handlers take their cut, the lawyers take theirs, the taxman takes his. By the time you notice the fortune is shrinking, you sell the extra mansion in Malibu, the spare cars, the paintings you never really liked. The bank balance stabilises, but the fear doesn't. You know how fast it goes. You know how much faster it goes when the phone isn't ringing anymore. The friends are gone too. The ones who filled your house, who swore you were family, who laughed too loud at your jokes. They're at someone else's mansion now. They don't answer your calls, don't return your messages. If they see you on the street, they smile too quickly, wave too briefly, move on too fast. They've already latched onto newer stars, fresher hosts for their parasitism. You're old news, and nobody feeds on old news. The loneliness grows heavy. Nights stretch long and empty, the silence pressing against your skull until you do anything to make it stop. So you do. You pour another drink, cut another line, light another cigarette. The rituals don't feel fun anymore. They don't even feel glamorous. They just feel necessary, the only way to drown out the sound of nothing. You tell yourself you're relaxing, that you're enjoying the quiet. But you know better. The quiet is killing you faster than the powder ever did. Sometimes you catch yourself on television. Reruns of old movies, interviews from your golden years, magazine covers from a decade ago. You stare at the young face, the glowing eyes, the easy smile, and wonder where that person went. You wonder if they're buried under the surgeries, under the powder, under the years of smoke and champagne, or if they never really existed at all. Maybe that person was just another role, another performance, another mask you wore until it fused with your skin. The industry doesn't mourn you. It doesn't even notice you're gone. The machine churns forward, devouring new faces, spitting out new stars. The cycle repeats endlessly, and you're just one more casualty in a long line of them. Washed up before 40, forgotten before 50. A footnote in a decade full of neon corpses. And still, a part of you clings. You keep the phone charged, just in case. You keep a suit pressed, just in case. You keep your lines rehearsed, just in case. Because the dream never really dies, even when the career does. You still hope for that call, that miracle comeback, that one role that will prove everyone wrong. But the phone doesn't ring. The script doesn't arrive. The spotlight doesn't return. You're not the star anymore. You're the cautionary tale. The whispered story at parties. The punchline in late-night monologues. The tragic example parents point to when their kids say they want to be famous. You wanted immortality. What you got was infamy. You wanted to be remembered forever. What you got was to be forgotten early. And the cruelest part is that you knew it was coming. You saw it happen to others. You laughed at their falls, swore it would never be you, swore you'd be different. But nobody is different here. The machine always wins. The spotlight always burns out. And the aftermath is always the same, washed up before you're 40, staring at the ruins of what once looked like paradise, realising too late that the dream was always the nightmare. The lights always fade eventually. They don't shut off all at once, like a switch being flipped, but dim slowly, leaving you blinking in the half-dark, wondering where everyone went. The cameras that once blinded you move on to fresher prey. The fans who screamed your name stop showing up outside hotels. The tabloids that once dissected your every move lose interest. You think the silence will feel like freedom, but it doesn't. It feels like erasure. Fame isn't just a stage you step onto. It's a stage that vanishes beneath you the second you're no longer profitable, leaving you hanging in the dark. You tell yourself you don't care. You sit in the mansion with the curtains drawn, glass in hand, cigarette burning low, muttering that you never needed them anyway. You claim you wanted peace, that you're happier now, that the quiet is what you deserved all along. But the truth gnaws at you, because the quiet is too loud. It reminds you of everything you lost, everything you gave away, everything you mutilated yourself to preserve. You gave your body, your face, your sanity to the machine, and now the machine doesn't even remember your name. The mirror doesn't help. You stand there some mornings, or afternoons, or nights. Time has blurred too much to tell, staring at the reflection. The skin pulled tight, the lips swollen, the eyes hollow. You look like a wax figure that melted slightly in the sun. You tell yourself you still look good, still look young, still look like a star. But deep down you know you're lying. Not to the magazines this time, not to the publicist, not to the fans, to yourself, the biggest lie of them all. The house is too big now, rooms you haven't stepped into in years, couches still reeking of cigarettes, closets stuffed with clothes that no longer fit or were never worn. The swimming pool has gone cloudy, the tiles cracked, cigarette butts floating like little rafts. Once, it was full of laughter and glitter, bodies writhing under neon. Now it's a stagnant pond, silent except for the occasional hum of the filter, struggling to keep up. You walk past it on the way to the car, not because you're going anywhere, but because you need to remind yourself you still have somewhere to walk. The car is another ghost, once polished, photographed, envied. Now it sits in the driveway, dented, faded, ashtrays overflowing. You slide behind the wheel sometimes, start the engine, drive down Sunset, just to feel the motion. The boulevard is unrecognisable. New clubs, new billboards, new names plastered across them. The same neon glow, but none of it belongs to you anymore. You pass the clubs where you once ruled, now filled with strangers who've never heard of you. The doormen don't look up when your car slows. The cameras don't flash. The crowd doesn't part. You drive past, smoke curling from the window, trying to pretend you don't care. The nights stretch the longest. They used to be filled with music, laughter, endless parties that rolled from mansion to mansion. Now they're just silence, broken only by the hiss of a lighter, the clink of ice in a glass, the occasional groan of the old house settling into itself. You pour another drink, cut another line, light another cigarette. The ritual's a muscle memory by now. But the rush is gone. The powder doesn't sparkle the way it used to. The champagne tastes flat. The cigarettes taste like ash. You do it anyway, not for fun, not for glamour, but because stopping would mean feeling. And you can't feel, not anymore. Sometimes the phone does ring, not with offers, not with scripts or interviews. With old voices, slurred and shaking, other relics from the same decade. You talk for hours, half drunk, half high, reminiscing about nights neither of you fully remember, about scandals you only know because they ended up in the papers. You laugh too loud, sigh too heavy, and hang up with the same bitter taste in your mouth. Because you both know it's not nostalgia. It's grief. Grief for the years wasted, the bodies buried, the careers incinerated in neon flames. The world doesn't mourn you. It forgets you. The same magazines that once obsessed over your wrinkles, your lovers, your overdoses stop printing your name altogether. The same fans who once cut out your photos from glossy covers can't even recall which movies you were in. The same city that once cheered your rise shrugs at your fall. Hollywood is an assembly line, and you are just one more product. Shiny, packaged, sold, discarded. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. That fame was never real anyway. That the applause was hollow, the headlines meaningless, the spotlight an illusion. You try to convince yourself you're relieved it's over, that you're free now. But the truth is simpler, sharper, crueler. You miss it. You miss the cameras, the screams, the endless noise. You miss being someone. Because now, you're no one. Just another washed-up star in a city full of them. Haunting the same streets. Nursing the same wounds. Pretending the silence is peace when it's really just the echo of everything you'd lost. And still, every once in a while, you catch yourself hoping. Hoping for a call, a role, a headline. Hoping the machine will take you back, even though you know it won't. You keep a suit pressed, just in case. You keep lines rehearsed, just in case. You keep the light on in the driveway, just in case someone remembers to knock. But nobody knocks, nobody calls, nobody cares. So you pour another drink. You cut another line. You light another cigarette. And you sit there in the mansion that smells like regret, staring into the dark, listening to the silence that fame left behind. Because that's the real ending. Not applause, not glory, not immortality. Just silence. Just emptiness. Just the nightmare you thought was the dream.